Chapter 2649. Ma Jianhang would remember this voice for the rest of his life. That woman lifted her foot, and a blade suddenly flew out of her heel. The scene of her holding it against his neck was like a decisive killer. Ma Jianhang was so scared that he jumped out of bed. He even forgot to pretend to be a gentleman in front of his mistress and quickly put on his clothes. As he ran, he crawled to open the curtains and the balcony door. Like a big wolf dog that had lost its arrogance, he bent down and looked at Yun Jian, obeying her orders. Pegasus Nightclub. At this moment, Si Yuan, who was wearing a bar attire, was pulled to the door of a large private room. Gong Suya had also changed into a bar attire at some point. Sister Hong and Yuan Tianqi stood next to Si Yuan and Gong Suya. Sister Hong was constantly reminding Si Yuan, "Good sister, you've just arrived. Learn more from Suya. Today, all the people in the room are big bosses. Their net worth is in the hundreds of millions. Don't make them unhappy. Yesterday, the new girl in our bar, Xiaolan, received a tip of 3,000 yuan from the big bosses just by drinking with them. You too, learn to be smarter." Sister Hong twisted her waist and warned them. As she spoke, Sister Hong glanced at Si Yuan and asked, "Good sister, have you been in love before?" As soon as she asked this, Sister Hong saw a trace of desolation flash through Si Yuan's eyes. After softly replying to Sister Hong, Si Yuan didn't say anything else. Si Yuan thought of Zhou Yiran, who had protected her since she was young. But he had already protected her. Holding back the tears that were about to fall, Si Yuan clenched her fists and pretended to be calm. Okay, quickly go in." A different color flashed through Sister Hong's eyes. In the next second, she urged her. Si Yuan turned her head and secretly wiped her tears. She pushed the door open and entered the private room with a tray of wine. Sister Hong smiled as she watched Si Yuan and Gong Suya enter the private room. After the door closed, Sister Hong's smile instantly dimmed. This one already has a boyfriend. She's definitely not a virgin. Sister Hong said to Yuan Tianqi, who was standing on the side. Then if he doesn't comply later, we can directly inject him. Yuan Tianqi raised an eyebrow. And, take care of this matter well. I'll give you a reward later. Hong Jia nodded towards Yuan Tianqi. She crossed her arms and looked through the door of the large private room to observe the situation inside. As soon as Si Yuan walked into the big box, her ears were ringing from the deafening noise in the box. She subconsciously took a big step back. Follow me later and don't run around. Obviously, it was not Gong Suya's first time here. She moved closer to Si Yuan and whispered to her. After that, Gong Suya smiled and walked towards the group of big bosses in front of her with a tray of wine. At first, Si Yuan and Gong Suya just stood aside and poured wine. Si Yuan also naively thought that this was just a job to pour wine. But as the atmosphere became more and more lively, the big bosses sat in the private room and held up their microphones to sing loudly at the screen. As they sang, one of the big bosses, who was big and burly, reached out his hand to touch Si Yuan's thigh. He was so big that he looked like he was 5 months pregnant. Perhaps she had inherited Yun Jian and Si Yi's excellent genes, but Si Yuan's innate reaction speed was extremely fast. She quickly dodged the second the big boss's hand was about to touch her thigh. This move instantly attracted the big boss's dissatisfaction. Hong! The big boss immediately shouted. He opened his mouth and wanted to call Hong Jia, who was outside the private room, to come in. Before the word Hong could be heard, Gong Suya took the opportunity to replace Si Yuan. She turned around, endured the disgust in her heart, and sat in the big boss's seat. Gong Suya took a sliced banana from the table in the private room and stuffed it into the big boss's mouth. Then, she pulled her red lips. Boss Lee, she is a newcomer. You are a generous person, so don't lower yourself to her level. When Gon Suya was sweeping the floor in the dance studio, she was quite scheming. She knew how to take advantage of Yun Jian's kindness to Si Yuan to sweep the mob for Yun Jian. But at this moment, Gon Suya's action saved Si Yuan again. It should be known that if you angered this group of big bosses, it would not be over just by quitting this job. In the future, you would have to bear the consequences in Hezhou City. So you are a newcomer. I was wondering why you were so insensible. The bald man in his 40s or 50s, who was called Boss Lee, grabbed Gon Suya's chest and stared straight at Si Yuan. White Horse Nightclub, in the name of a bar. Actually, the waitresses who entered here could be taken away as long as you could pay the price. They clearly marked the price for a night. Chapter 2650. Si Yuan was stunned by the scene in front of her. No matter how insensible she was, Si Yuan should know what was going on. I'm going to the toilet. Si Yuan immediately thought of a way to escape. She gave everyone a fake smile, but in her heart, she was already thinking of how to escape. Fortunately, no one stopped her from going to the toilet. After Si Yuan walked out of the private room, she ran to the toilet as fast as she could. At this time, Sister Hong walked out from the corner. She looked in the direction Si Yuan left and said to the thug standing beside her, "Follow her." Yes. The group of thugs accepted the order and chased after Si Yuan. Sister Hong dodged and entered the private room of the bar. She swayed her butt and came to Boss Lee. She replaced Gon Suya and sat on Boss Lee's lap. She said to Boss Lee with a seductive look, "How is it? Boss Lee, are you satisfied with that girl just now?" Boss Lee heard Sister Hong's words and revealed a wretched smile. Satisfied. Extremely satisfied. If she doesn't listen later, I'll inject her with a bucket of that thing. Once that thing is injected into her body, she won't be able to control it. In the future, she will definitely be the most lascivious woman in my bar. Sister Hong smiled and drew a few circles on Boss Lee's chest. Judging from her appearance, she must be the prettiest bar-room princess in your restaurant. Boss Lee could almost imagine that scene. Meanwhile, Si Yuan had already reached the toilet. She looked around the toilet and didn't find a way to escape. Helplessly, she stayed in the toilet for a long time before peeping around. Seeing that there was no one around, she ran frantically to the bar's entrance. However, just as she ran 2 steps, she was attacked by a few men from the side. Si Yuan had practiced with Zhou Yiran before. She dodged twice, but she was soon at a disadvantage. She was caught. Si Yuan didn't have any physical training because Yun Jian and Si Yi spoiled her too much. Coupled with Zhou Yiran's care, Si Yuan had lived a very good life since she was young. Let go. Let go of me. It's illegal to catch people like this. Si Yuan struggled and was caught in the private room. Inside the private room, Sister Hong looked at Si Yuan with her legs crossed. Seeing that Si Yuan was still frantically struggling, she stepped forward in her red high heels and slapped Si Yuan a few times. You still want to escape after entering my Pegasus nightclub? Sister Hong slapped Si Yuan's face, leaving a few red palm prints, before stopping. Yes, yes. Yuan Tianqi hurriedly nodded. Hold her down and inject her. Sister Hong no longer pretended and immediately revealed her ugliest face. Immediately, someone walked towards Si Yuan with a large syringe. Gon Suya was so scared that she shrank to the side and trembled. The few big bosses looked at him with a meaningful look. Girls who did not have parents by their side were usually unwilling to come out after being tricked into such places. That's right. Other than accidentally ingesting drugs, they could also be forcibly injected into the body. It was just like the syringe the doctor gave you when you were getting an injection in the hospital. The only difference was that this syringe contained drugs. Once injected with drugs, the person's life would be over. If Si Yuan was injected with drugs, she would definitely be addicted to the taste of drugs. At this time, not to mention having sex with someone casually in exchange for drugs, even if she had to break her hands and feet, when the drug addiction came up, it was possible for her to do it. Forced injection of drugs. They only dared to do this because Si Yuan was an orphan. But the people around them only watched and remained silent. Some were even gloating. The big bosses were eager to make a move. They even began to discuss how they would share Si Yuan's delicacy later. Just as Sister Hong's subordinate was about to inject the drugs into Si Yuan's arm with the syringe, the door of the private room was violently smashed open. The person who was smashed into the room was a nightclub waiter. What's going on? Sister Hong's eyes moved. Just as Sister Hong's eyes flickered, a tall and slender figure stepped into the room. The moment they saw Yun Jian, Gan Suya and Yuan Tianqi almost cried out in surprise. Sister Hong even muttered, "Where did this ugly girl come from? Hurry up and chase her out." Just as she said that, Yun Jian had already made her way to Sister Hong's thug who was about to inject Si Yuan with a syringe in his hand. "Quick! Hurry up and catch her!" Sister Hong shouted when she saw this. But just as Sister Hong finished speaking, Yun Jian suddenly flipped her hands. 10 razor blades appeared between her fingers. She didn't even look at the razor blades in her hand. The razor blades flew out and directly slashed the necks of Sister Hong's subordinates in front of everyone present. In the next second, the 10 subordinates stopped breathing and fell to the ground one after another. She killed someone. Sister Hong was thoroughly frightened. She frantically retreated backwards, together with Yuan Tianqi and the other bosses. They all retreated to a corner of the room where they couldn't retreat any further. You, who exactly are you? Someone come. She killed someone. She killed someone. Just as Sister Hong was screaming in fear, Yun Jian's lips curved into a red arc. In the next second, she tore off her mask in front of everyone, revealing her original face. Exquisite and beautiful, it was a stunning face that was 80% similar to Si Yuan's. But what frightened everyone and made them tremble was not Yun Jian's beautiful face, but Yun Jian took light steps and stood in front of everyone who was huddled in the corners of the private room. Just as Si Yuan's face was covered in tears and everyone's faces were pale from fright, she suddenly spoke. "Congratulations, you're about to become the 17th headless murder victim of Slaying God's Return." Chapter 2651. The 17th victim of the headless murder case. The headless murder case. The eerie voice that came out of Yun Jian's mouth made everyone's eyes widen. Especially when Yun Jian killed 10 living people with a blade in a single move, it was eerie and cruel. Sister Hong, Yuan Tianqi, and the few big bosses who were sitting in the room and waiting with wretched expressions for Si Yuan to be injected with drugs and let them do whatever they wanted were all curled up in the corners of the room. They looked like they were dying to hide in the corner of the room so that they could escape. Headless murder case. Who are you? Yuan Tianqi's eyes bulged like a dead fish's as she glared at Yun Jian, her face pale. 2019 was the era of internet technology. In this day and age, even the slightest thing that happened could be transmitted to the internet and become popular overnight. In short, even a small matter could spread across the globe. The dozens of headless murder cases in Longmen City that even the police with modern technology could not investigate had long spread across the country, arousing suspicions among the netizens. Right now, the murderer of the headless murder case was standing in front of everyone, killing 10 of Sister Hong's subordinates in one move. Everyone present was indescribably shocked. What was more shocking was that it was not Slaying God. Unlike Sister Hong, Yuan Tianqi, and the rest, one of the bosses finally reacted and exclaimed in shock. Could it be the top international secret agent who was reported dead 3 years ago, slaying God? After the boss exclaimed, another boss who was huddled in the corner reacted immediately and was scared out of his wits. Who was slaying God? Slaying God had been popular in the assassin secret agent world for decades. Her name alone was enough to scare people out of their wits. She was already dead and was once the pinnacle of existence in the world, a king that no one could reach. She had suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Those who weren't present at the scene would never be able to understand this kind of shock. We didn't see anything. We didn't see anything. We have no grudge against you. Please be magnanimous and show mercy. We can give you anything you want. Please let us go. In the private room, the most senior and most powerful boss among the group of big bosses suddenly crawled to Yun Jian from the corner of the private room like an animal and knelt down in front of Yun Jian. This boss was the one who wanted to take advantage of Si Yuan when she first entered the room. Originally, it was as glorious as it could be, but now, it was as pathetic as it could be. Yes, we have no enmity with you, you. Sister Hong pulled out a smile that was uglier than a crying face. Just as she was about to speak to Yun Jian, Mom. Mom. A trembling voice that was filled with disbelief and wild joy suddenly rang out. Chapter 2652. If it was said that the bosses in the room came to this kind of nightclub because they liked to play, then Yun Jian's killing method just now was definitely the most frightening thing these bosses had ever seen in their lives. It was countless times more frightening than the exaggerated killing methods in the movies. Ah! Don't kill us. No. Si Yuan, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I really didn't want to hurt you. I just wanted you to earn more money. Let me go. I beg you. Let me go. I really know I was wrong. Yuan Tianqi saw everything that happened in front of her clearly. When she saw the boss kneeling in front of Yun Jian being stepped on by Yun Jian on the fatal point of his head and killed instantly, she was so scared that her lips and teeth were trembling violently. She desperately pulled at the hem of Yun Jian's clothes and shrank behind her. Her legs were weak, and she was 5 centimeters away from kneeling in front of Yun Jian. She wanted to use Si Yuan to make Yun Jian let her go. However, Yuan Tianqi saw hatred in Si Yuan's eyes. Si Yuan, who grew up beside Yun Jian and Si Yi, wasn't a rich young lady who couldn't bear to see a drop of blood. Although she didn't usually deal with things personally, she had seen plenty of bloody things. Hence, when Yun Jian dealt with this group of people one by one, Si Yuan's face didn't reveal any fear. Yuan Tianqi didn't dare to approach Yun Jian at all, afraid that she would end up like the boss who knelt in front of Yun Jian just now. However, she saw that Si Yuan didn't want to pay attention to her at all, so she shrank back to Hong Jie's side. Hong. Hong Jie, save me. Yuan Tianqi was almost scared to death. She desperately grabbed Hong Jie's hand and begged. Hiding in a corner, Hong Jie had actually already sent out a text message. It was to ask her superiors to call for reinforcements. After being pulled by Yuan Tianqi, Sister Hong was afraid that Yuan Tianqi would implicate her, so she fiercely pushed Yuan Tianqi in front of Yun Jian. She wanted to use this to stall for time so that she could save herself. Yuan Tianqi was abruptly pushed in front of Yun Jian. She was so scared that her face was smudged, and her foundation was soaked in sweat. Ah! Don't kill me. After being pushed in front of Yun Jian, Yuan Tianqi was so scared that he was like a tortoise that desperately flipped over. His hands and feet were frantically flapping about, fearing that Yun Jian would touch a certain part of his body and kill him. His posture of being slapped by the wind was no different from a job-hopping clown. Just as Yuan Tianqi was frantically flailing his arms and legs in an attempt to stop Yun Jian from approaching him, suddenly, a group of people walked in from outside the big box. When she saw that the person leading the group was her solid backer, Sister Hong rushed to him almost immediately. "Brotherly, save me! Save me!" Seeing Yun Jian and Si looking at her, Si Yuan wiped her face and said to Yun Jian and Si, "Dad, Mom, you guys eat too." As she spoke, Si Yuan picked up 2 skewers of mutton and gave one to Yun Jian and one to Si. Needless to say, after growing up, Si Yuan really had the urge to pinch her cheeks. She was very cute. Judging from her appearance, Yun Jian was not much older than Si Yuan and so was Si. Therefore, when the young man selling skewers heard Si Yuan's words, his foot, which was holding a plate of skewers, slipped. He stopped in time and couldn't help but shout at Si Yuan, "What the hell? Are you playing house? Calm. Wonderful book house." Chapter 2654. This young man was tall and thin, but he didn't look good. His nose was a little flat, and his mouth was a little crooked. So when he said this, Si Yuan was amused. "This is my dad, and this is my mom. What do you think? Young enough." Si Yuan couldn't help showing off. As she spoke, Si Yuan thought of another person. She bent down and nibbled on the mutton skewer in her hand. Suddenly, she didn't want to talk anymore. Fine. I'm old. I don't understand the games of young people." The young man brought the barbecue plate to Yun Jian and Si's table. He scratched his head and continued to work on his barbecue. "Next, we have news. The Pegasus nightclub in Hezhou City in province suddenly caught fire. Just now, fire trucks were sent to rescue, but because the fire was too big and too fierce, many people were still trapped inside and couldn't be rescued. Currently, further rescue efforts are underway. Hopefully, more people can be rescued. For the latest news, please pay attention to our TV station. We will report the details as soon as possible." The TV in the barbecue restaurant that was originally playing cartoons suddenly broadcast such news. Everyone sitting around heard it. The Pegasus nightclub was a popular place for men in Hezhou City to pass time. The girls here were clearly priced. If you had the money, you could take them away. The reason why such a place wasn't closed down was because of the power and influence. Now that such a thing happened, the people sitting in the barbecue restaurant started to talk. The Pegasus nightclub. How could it burn down just like that? Hey, you don't understand. Most likely, they met an enemy. The girls in the Pegasus nightclub are all very beautiful. It's a pity that it was burned down. The vulgar discussions of a few bachelors at the table next to them could be heard. Yun Jian, Si, and Si Yuan ignored them. Needless to say, she was the one who set the fire. Yun Jian didn't let go of anyone who participated in the murder of Si Yuan. Si Yuan didn't ask about the arrival of Yun Jian and Si. In fact, when Si Yuan left, Si Yuan knew that Si Yuan went to the past and wanted to change history. Now, Si already knew the identities and backgrounds of Yun Jian and Si. As she ate the barbecue skewers in her mouth, the forced smile on her face slowly disappeared. She raised her head abruptly and said to Yun Jian and Si, "Dad, Mom, it's so good to see you again." At the end of her speech, Si Yuan seemed to recall something and her tone suddenly became choked with sobs. Yun Jian patted Si Yuan's back. She didn't know how to comfort the child, so she just asked, "What's wrong?" "Dad, Mom, can you not leave me? I'm afraid that everyone will leave me. I don't want to be alone anymore. That guy Zhou Yiran once said that he would stay by my side and protect me, but he still left. He died for me. Chapter 26:55. Her head was suddenly pushed up by someone. She heard the magnetic voice of the man she thought had died for her. Si Yuan's head swayed for a while. Zhou Yiran, who was in his 20s, had already grown up to be fresh and handsome. His youthful appearance had faded away. The current Zhou Yiran was no longer the immature little kid from before. Even when he stood next to Ce, he was not inferior in terms of height. Zhou Yiran, you big bastard, you didn't die. Do you know how sad I was when I saw you die? Why didn't you die, you big bastard? Si Yuan's body froze when Zhou Yiran suddenly pulled her into his arms. When she came back to her senses, she hit Zhou Yiran's chest twice with all her might. Tears streamed down her face. After Si Yuan hit his chest twice, Zhou Yiran cracked a smile. He reached out and gently placed his hand on Si Yuan's head. He comforted her but did not say anything. Just as Zhou Yiran placed his hand on Si Yuan's head and gently stroked it, his collar was suddenly pulled back. Ce, who was originally sitting with Yun Jian, was now standing behind Zhou Yiran. She practically grabbed Zhou Yiran's collar and pulled him away from Si Yuan. Sit over there. Ce mercilessly dragged Zhou Yiran to a bench a few seats away from Si Yuan. His eyes were cold. Dad, what are you doing? Si Yuan saw Zhou Yiran being pulled away by Ce. She pouted and wiped away her tears. She was not pretentious. Ce looked like he was only in his 20s. However, he was called Dad by a 16-year-old girl. The people around the barbecue shop looked at him strangely. Ce did not respond to Yun Jian's words. He took a lamb skewer, which was Yun Jian's favorite, from the barbecue plate and personally delivered it to Yun Jian's mouth. Ce and Yun Jian were from 2004 to 2019, so they didn't get along with their daughter, Si Yuan, and they weren't very close. However, blood ties could not be broken. When Zhou Yiran hugged Ce in front of her, Ce instinctively grabbed Zhou Yiran's collar and pulled him behind her. Mom, Dad is bullying me. Seeing that Ce was ignoring her, Si Yuan sat on the stool and slowly moved to Yun Jian's side. Then, she reached out and grabbed Yun Jian's arm. She pouted and looked aggrieved. Yun Jian didn't say anything. She raised her eyebrows and rubbed Ce's head. She glared at Ce and didn't take the mutton skewers that Ce handed over to her. She was giving face to Ce on behalf of Ce. Si Yuan understood Yun Jian, and she understood Ce even more. She knew that once her mother did that, her father would. Sure enough, Ce's face immediately darkened. Looking at her expression, she wasn't happy at all. Mom, I want to sleep with you tonight. Okay. Si Yuan had already grabbed Yun Jian's arm and put her head on Yun Jian's shoulder. She looked like she wouldn't give up until she snatched Yun Jian from Ce. Okay. What made Ce's face even more gloomy was that Yun Jian actually nodded in agreement. No. After Yun Jian agreed, Ce immediately said with a sullen face. His voice was so loud that all the customers in the barbecue shop turned to look. However, Ce didn't care. Why, Dad, I'll just borrow her for a day and return her to you tomorrow. I'm scared to sleep alone today. I think of them when I close my eyes now. Si Yuan shook Yun Jian's arm and acted coquettishly to Ce. Of course, she was referring to the people who were involved in the incident at Pegasus nightclub. After Si Yuan finished speaking, she knew that with Ce's pampering personality, she would definitely agree. However, just as she finished speaking, Ce grabbed the confused Zhou Yiran and pushed him in front of Si Yuan. He'll sleep with you tonight. Don't steal my woman. Chapter 26:56. The moment Ce said this, Zhou Yiran, who was still thinking, was completely dumbfounded. Ha! Zhou Ran had his hand on his head and was deep in thought. Now that he heard Siyi's words, he seemed to have been struck by lightning. He stood rooted to the ground, stunned. The future Siyi doted on Si Yuan a lot. He gave Si Yuan whatever she wanted. Everyone said that Siyi doted on Si Yuan to the heavens. However, he was very strict with Si Yuan. For example, she was not allowed to stay out at night. She had to be home before dark at 7 p.m. She was not allowed to hold hands with men. She was not allowed to have intimate contact with men. He was as strict as he could be. The future Siyi wanted Si Yuan to be obedient even if he had to give Yunjian to her for a day. However, the 2004 CE actually pushed Zhou Yiran to Si Yuan. Si Yuan. Zhou Yiran. Dad, you weren't like this in the past. Although Si Yuan knew that CE was from 2004, she could not help but smile when she heard Siyi's words. Ahem. Zhou Yiran scratched his head calmly. Then I'll accept your offer. Zhou Yiran would not let go of such a good opportunity. Zhou Yiran had been taught by his father since he was young. If you wanted a woman, don't say anything. Take her as your own first. Adam had instilled this idea in Zhou Yiran since he was young. He even told Zhou Yiran that he had forcefully taken over Lan Su and forced Lan Su to be with him in the end. However, the future CE protected Si Yuan too well and did not give Zhou Yiran a chance to make a move. Zhou Yiran would never have thought that it would not be him playing tricks this time. It would be CE who would personally send his daughter to his bed. Dad, I don't want to. When Si Yuan heard that Ce wanted her to sleep in the same room as Zhou Yiran, her first reaction was to be shy and then resist. Although Si Yuan did have thoughts of being closer to Zhou Yiran than treating him as an older brother, she did have the feelings of a young girl towards Zhou Yiran. But to sleep in the same room as Zhou Yiran, was he going to discover the secret that she didn't want to tell anyone during her teenage years? Then I'll sleep alone. Ce remained expressionless the entire time. Please don't, Dad. I'm really scared. Si Yuan held Yunjian's hand, looking aggrieved. However, no matter how aggrieved she felt, Ce would not let go. Yunjian sat at the side and smiled faintly. Yunjian and the others were sitting at the barbecue restaurant's table. They were surrounded by large tents, and Yunjian and the others were sitting in a corner. Even if people passed by, they wouldn't notice them. After the barbecue was served, Ce started discussing business with Zhou Yiran. Yunjian and Ce had been in 2018 for a short period of time, but in fact, it hadn't been long. It had only been 1 or 2 months. Ce was indeed the leader of Enhun. In just 1 or 2 months, Ce returned to the international scene and directly took back all of Enhun's scattered forces. Her speed was so fast that Yuan Xing and Zhou Yiran, who were leading the way, were shocked. Yes, except for Ce and Xingfeng who didn't die, Yuan Xing and Zhou Yiran both survived. However, Zhou Yiran faked his own death in order to secretly investigate the mysterious person. Of course, Zhou Yiran had secretly sent people to protect Si Yuan for the past 3 years. However, because he was afraid that the mysterious person would notice, he didn't dare to show up or protect her too tightly. At this moment, Zhou Yiran was telling Ce all the information he had investigated over the years to Ce. Chapter 2657. I've searched all over the world. The mysterious man is currently residing in Zhe Province's Longmen City. There was no one around, but for safety's sake, Zhou Yiran lowered his voice and spoke to Ce softly. Si Yuan was still like a child. She ate the skewers in big bites. The oil on the skewers dripped down and landed on her collar. Yun Jian was wiping the oil that had dripped onto Si Yuan's collar with a tissue. While she was wiping the oil off Si Yuan's collar, Yun Jian was also listening to Zhou Yiran. Zhou Yiran had already said this to Ce. He repeated it this time mainly for Yun Jian. There must be a hiding place for the mysterious man somewhere in Country Z's Longmen City. According to his understanding of you, this mysterious man is probably someone who has been lurking in Longmen City since Aunt Yun Jian was reborn. In other words, before the mysterious man became a mysterious man, he knew everything that happened to Aunt Yun Jian in the future like the back of his hand. So now, we only need to start from the people Aunt Yun Jian came into contact with in Longmen City before. Zhou Yiran had obtained sufficient evidence, which was why he said those words. Yun Jian's eyes narrowed. First of all, the mysterious man was not a mysterious man from the beginning. He was just an ordinary human on Earth in the beginning. This was the first point. After the mystery man became the mystery man in the future world, he returned to the mystery continent. Ambition swallowed him up, and he was not satisfied with that. So, in order to get rid of the sovereign god of the gods continent, he ambushed the sorcerer goddess, whom the sovereign god admired. It was then that the witch goddess was rescued by the Lord God and unintentionally went to Earth. On Earth in this era, he who had yet to become a mysterious man was still an ordinary person. The two dimensions were in disarray. As the witch goddess, Yun Jian must have met the mysterious man who had yet to become a mysterious man. The future could be changed. When the mysterious man returned to the beginning of the divine continent, he changed the future of the divine continent as well as himself. That was to say, before he became the mysterious man, he met Yun Jian and learned more about Yun Jian. Therefore, after becoming a mysterious man, he basically knew Yun Jian's future. This was the key. Therefore, it was both simple and complicated to find the mysterious man. First, they had to list all the people Yun Jian had come into contact with when she was reborn in Longmen City. Secondly, he had to find someone who knew Yun Jian's whereabouts from the list. That person might be the mysterious man. As long as you know who the mysterious man is, Uncle Ce and Aunt Yun Jian, you can immediately go back 15 years and kill the mysterious man before he became the mysterious man. Then, none of this would have happened. Zhou Yiran's mind was very clear. He quickly sorted out a list of disgust and told it to Yun Jian and Ce. Stepping through the door of time and space, a person could change history. The disarray of time and space was not non-existent. If you changed history alone, the future would be changed as well. When the people in the future discovered the door of time and space, the original historical trajectory would be turned upside down. Zhou Yiran did not know that it was because he was so young but had such a bright mind that Ce asked him to sleep with her at night. Chapter 2658. What are you talking about? Why can't I understand a single word? Si Yuan was still young. She took a bite of the freshly cooked sausage and tilted her head to look at Zhou Yiran. Then, she looked at Yun Jian and Ce with a face full of confusion. She looked cute and ignorant. I'm here. You don't need to understand these things. Zhou Yiran's hand was very long, and his knuckles were unusually long. He reached out and rubbed Ce's head in front of her as he spoke. Oh. Being rubbed by Zhou Yiran in front of her parents, Si Yuan's face instantly flushed red. She lowered her head and did not dare to look at Zhou Yiran's face because she was too shy. Yun Jian tapped the table twice with her fingers. She frowned slightly. After a while, she suddenly said, I remember all the people I've met clearly. Tomorrow, I'll write down all the information of all the people I've met. Leave this to me. Yun Jian's memory was very good. This was not an exaggeration. A person would meet many people in a lifetime, but except for most of the important people, it was difficult to remember all the people who had appeared around you clearly. But Yun Jian could. Since the mysterious man must be someone close to her, she would be able to find out the identity of the mysterious man before he dealt with her. Then, she would dare to go back to 2004 and kill him before he became the mysterious man. Okay, Aunt Yun Jian, I'll leave this matter to you. After you've sorted out all the information of the people you've met, I'll analyze it and narrow down the target. Zhou Yiran said to Yun Jian. Yun Jian was still a little surprised by Zhou Yiran's analytical ability. Although she was surprised, the more capable Zhou Yiran was, the more assured Yun Jian and Ce would be to leave Si Yuan in Zhou Yiran's care. TSK, Tisk, Yun Jian and the other two were talking about important matters. The grease from Si Yuan's barbecue splashed everywhere. In the end, it even splashed onto Zhou Yiran's clothes, who was sitting quite far away from her. Coincidentally, Zhou Yiran's clothes were splattered with grease from the skewers in Si Yuan's hands. However, Zhou Yiran did not have the slightest intention of blaming Si Yuan. On the contrary, he looked at Si Yuan with doting eyes. At night. Because Si Yuan was scared, she kept pestering Yun Jian to sleep with her. In the end, Ce dragged Zhou Yiran in front of Si Yuan, while Ce hugged Yun Jian's shoulders and went back to the room. I hate Daddy the most. Humph. Si Yuan snorted and shouted at Ce's back. After giving Zhou Yiran one last look, she suddenly ran back into her room. Zhou Yiran touched his nose. He had no intention of going back to his room just because he was a gentleman. After 20 minutes, Zhou Yiran opened the door to Si Yuan's bedroom. Si Yuan had already showered, and the fragrance of a young girl continuously wafted into his nose. Zhou Yiran, why did you come in, you big baddie? Get out, get out. Si Yuan was wearing pajamas. Her hands were on her waist, and she looked like she wanted to chase Zhou Yiran away. Your dad asked me to accompany you. Zhou Yiran smiled, looking like he was forced by Ce to come here to look for Si Yuan. Si Yuan was still a little scared. After all, she had suffered too much at night. Finally, she pouted. Then you have to leave after I fall asleep. You have to. These words made Zhou Yiran's lips curl up again. He smiled devilishly. Okay. He would leave after she fell asleep. That was impossible. But he would not let Si Yuan hear this. At this moment, Si Yuan was shy because she did not wear underwear after showering. Like Yun Jian, Si Yuan's chest was very big. After wearing her pajamas at night, her chest was swollen. Afraid that Zhou Yiran would see her not wearing her pajamas, Si Yuan quickly shrank back into her bed. At this moment, Zhou Yiran walked toward the bed. But just as Zhou Yiran took 2 steps towards this side, he suddenly stepped on something under his feet. The moment he stopped and hooked up the thing he stepped on, Si Yuan's face suddenly turned from red to red. That was, she had casually thrown her bra on the ground. She had forgotten to put it away. Chapter 2659. Si Yuan was usually adorable and delicate, inheriting both Yun Jian's stunning looks and Ce's chiseled features. She was a perfect girl who was both beautiful and adorable. However, Si Yuan was not as beautiful as she looked. Usually, Si Yuan did not allow anyone to enter her room, except for Yun Jian. At night, she would go to her room and take off all her clothes. Then, she would go to the bathroom in her room to take a shower. She would put on her pajamas and lie on the bed to sleep. As for the underwear that she had taken off, Si Yuan would just throw them on the bed and the floor. Because the floor was covered with a furry carpet, after entering Si Yuan's room, one would usually walk barefoot on the furry carpet. The floor was not dirty. When Zhou Ran suddenly entered the room, Si Yuan did not think too much about it. She was only wearing her pajamas and did not wear any underwear. She was afraid that Zhou Ran would see that she had slept with him, so she kept covering herself and even crawled onto the bed. However, the moment she saw Zhou Ran pick up the bra that she had just thrown on the floor, Si Yuan's face turned so red that it was as if it had been cooked. Zhou Ran stared at the red cartoon bra in his hand. He could not react to what this thing was. "Don't touch my things. Give it back to me." Si Yuan had already pounced over from the bed. She even forgot that she was not wearing any underwear. She reached out and grabbed the bra in Zhou Ran's hand. However, because she pounced too fiercely, Si Yuan threw herself into Zhou Ran's arms. Zhou Ran was only wearing a thin white t-shirt. When Si Yuan threw herself into his embrace, he could even feel her breasts that were not wearing any undergarments. "Ah! Get out, get out, get out." Si Yuan felt that her face was as hot as boiling water. She pushed Zhou Ran and wanted him to leave. However, Zhou Ran only then realized that the thing that he had just aroused was actually hers. Cough. "I just returned the rental key to the landlord. There's nowhere to sleep nearby. Therefore, he would not leave this place even if he was beaten to death." Zhou Ran's expression did not change as he played his tricks. That still, Si Yuan hugged her bra and wished she could stuff it into her arms so that Zhou Ran would never see it again. But before she could say no, her voice suddenly stopped. Because before Si Yuan could say anything, Zhou Ran had already pulled her into his arms. Yuan, I missed you so much. I missed you for 3 years. 3 years ago, your brother asked me to hide my identity and secretly investigate the whereabouts of the mysterious man. He said that not seeing you was the best way to protect you. I really want to hug you. I want to comb your hair for you like before. I want to bathe you and feed you like when you were young. Yuan, I've waited for you for 3 years. Don't chase me away." Chapter 2660. In 2016, when Yunjian, Ce, and the rest perished together after the battle with the mysterious person, Si Yuan was only 12 or 13 years old. She was still a child. In Si Yuan's subconscious, she thought that Zhou Ran had died in the battle to save her. Of course, this was not the main point. The main point was that before Si Yuan was 12 or 13 years old, Zhou Ran had bathed her when she was still young. Nevertheless, that was when she was young. Between the ages of 12 and 15, Zhou Ran had disappeared from Si Yuan's world for 3 whole years. After 3 years, Si Yuan had grown from a bean sprout to a curvy young lady with at least a D cup. Many of the areas that she did not have when she was a little girl were now fully developed, especially her protruding breasts that were mesmerizing. Si Yuan was aware that she was no longer the bean sprout she used to be when she was young, so she blushed when Zhou Ran suddenly said that. In the next second, Si Yuan pushed Zhou Ran and shouted at Zhou Ran with a red face, "What are you doing? Pervert!" With that, she grabbed her bra, crawled under her blanket, and didn't say a word. Zhou Ran scratched his head, recalling Si Yuan's blushing face when she pushed him. He smirked softly. In the end, Si Yuan did not let Zhou Ran leave her room. It was just Si Yuan sleeping on the bed while Zhou Ran slept on the floor. The next day, Yunjian wrote down all the people she had met since she was reborn in Longmen City, including their behavior and what they had done, on a stack of white paper and handed it to Zhou Ran. Yunjian's handwriting was beautiful and elegant. She had written a stack of black words on the white paper, but not a single word was crooked due to too much writing. "Thank you, Auntie Yunjian. I'll eliminate all the insignificant characters 3 days later and narrow down the target," Zhou Ran said to Yunjian after taking the stack of white paper. Take good care of Yuan Yuan. However, Yun Jian took Si Yuan's hand away from Zhou Yiran's and personally placed Si Yuan's hand in Zhou Yiran's. Mom, don't you want me anymore? Hearing this, Si Yuan became anxious and quickly asked. Follow him. No matter what happens, don't leave his side. When everything is over, I will always be by your side. Yun Jian was clearly only 19 years old. She was as young as a flower, but at this moment, she was speaking to Si Yuan in a very old and deep voice. Zhou Yiran rubbed Yun Jian's head and solemnly promised her, I will protect her with my life. See you in 3 days then. Yun Jian nodded. 3 days later, she would come back to get the list of targets that Zhou Yiran had analyzed. After speaking, Yun Jian and Si Yi looked at each other and turned around. In less than 10 seconds, they disappeared in front of Zhou Yiran and Si Yi. Si Yuan watched as her parents, whom she missed dearly, left again. She held Zhou Yiran's large hand tightly. No matter how reluctant she was in her heart, she endured it. Zhou Yiran, you'll treat me well, right? Si Yuan held Zhou Yiran's hand tightly. Her eyes were still looking in the direction that Yun Jian and Si Yi had left. Zhou Yiran's smile rose slightly. He suddenly grabbed Si Yuan's small hand and pulled her in the opposite direction. At the same time, he blurted out a sentence that made Si Yuan feel at ease. Okay. Naturally, he would do his best to love her well. Chapter 2661. After Yun Jian and Si Yi left, Si Yi parted ways with Yun Jian as well, agreeing to meet again 3 days later. If she was to do something, Si Yi had to expand her influence. Yun Jian, on the other hand, returned to Longmen City. Since Zhou Yiran said that the mysterious person was most likely from Longmen City, she would definitely be able to find some clues when she returned. It was a restaurant on Qinqing Road in Longmen City. The restaurant had just opened recently and its business was booming. The staff was so busy that they took in many apprentices. Yun Jian disguised herself as a normal person again and applied for a job in the restaurant. She was now an intern in the restaurant. And she, clear this table quickly. We're about to serve the next table of guests. What are you guys dawdling about for? Can't you see that the guests at the door have been waiting for a long time? Clear it up quickly. The manager of Teppan restaurant had his hands on his hips as he gestured at Yun Jian and the employees in the restaurant. And she was Yun Jian's alias. Yun Jian's eyes flickered. She cleared the table quickly, so the manager who was already high and mighty liked Yun Jian quite a bit. It was because Yun Jian alone could finish a few people's work. The restaurant closed punctually at 10 o'clock at night. After closing the door, Yun Jian changed out of her uniform and was ready to leave. And she, let's go together. A girl's sweet voice came from behind them. It was a girl named Murong Ranran from the restaurant. Murong Ranran took good care of Yun Jian. Yun Jian nodded. She agreed not because Murong Ranran took good care of her. Instead, do you know if anything major happened in Longmen City in the past year? Yun Jian was the first to ask. Murong Ranran was taken aback by Yun Jian's question before she replied, anything major? I don't think so. There seems to be one. As she spoke, Murong Ranran turned to look at Yun Jian in surprise and asked, and she, you're interested in this? Yun Jian nodded. Then you've got the wrong person. I know a few buddies and they're very familiar with the big and small incidents that happened in Longmen City in the past few years. Do you want me to bring you to them to ask? Murong Ranran asked again. Sure. Yun Jian nodded. Since the mysterious person was from Longmen City and must be related to Yun Jian somehow, they should be able to gain something from the recent incidents in Longmen City. After all, there had to be a way for the mysterious person to become a mysterious. It was impossible for him to abandon everything on Earth for no reason and head to Deity Continent to go after Yunjian and Ce. Murong Ranran did know a few hooligans in the society. Of course, they were just ordinary hooligans in the society. There were no underworld forces in this era. No matter how these hooligans were in the society, they would never commit murder. At most, they would just put on an act. As expected, when Murong Ranran brought Yunjian to meet the hooligans, the leader who looked more like a hooligan but was not handsome had to cross the railing of the road. There were no cars at this time. When he saw Yunjian looking over, he exerted force on his legs and jumped over the railing that was only 40 to 50 centimeters high as if it was effortless. He even patted his pants before going to Yunjian. He did not look at Yunjian, but as if he wanted to act cool in front of Yunjian, he pulled a handful of his hair and spoke to Murong Ranran handsomely. "What's the matter?" "Sis Ranran, you're looking for me." "Calm. Wonderful book house." Chapter 2662. Murong Ranran knew the leader of the thugs. She nodded and spoke to him. "Brother Xinghong, my friend wants to know something. Can you tell her in detail?" Zhang Xinghong was a friend of Murong Ranran's brother. He specialized in collecting information, so the thugs behind him had heard about the happenings in the streets and alleys of Longmen City. I thought it was something big." Zhang Xinghong turned his head to look at Yunjian. Yunjian's figure was perfect, but she looked ordinary because she was wearing a human skin mask. Zhang Xinghong had taken a look at Yunjian's figure from afar and did not look at Yunjian's face when he walked over to look cool. Now that he saw Yunjian's face, which was ordinary, his desire vanished instantly. In spite of it, Zhang Xinghong gave in to Murong Ranran's request. "Of course, but I'll charge you," Zhang Xinghong said bluntly. If it were a pretty girl, Zhang Xinghong would not consider charging her. "Brother Xinghong, why are you like this? And she is my friend. Can you?" Murong Ranran was stunned and was about to speak when Zhang Xinghong interrupted her. Yunjian suddenly took out a stack of 100 yuan from her backpack and handed it to him expressionlessly. "Is this enough?" "Yes." "Cough." "Yes, yes, yes." Zhang Xinghong quickly took the stack of 100 yuan from Yunjian and pressed it against his chest, asking Yunjian, "What do you want to know? What accidents have happened in Longmen City in the past year? I want details." Yunjian maintained her cold expression. "Cough. You said that there have been a lot of accidents in Longmen City in the past year. I remember that an old house in Shangtang village caught on fire this year and someone died. There was also a big boss in Longmen City's suburbs who accidentally caused a gas explosion in his house. He had a lot of diesel in his house and the explosion added fuel to the fire and many people died." Zhang Xinghong rested his chin on his hand as he spoke, deep in thought. As he spoke, he suddenly recalled something and slapped his head hard, telling Yunjian, "I remember now. I remember now. Something big happened in Longmen City recently. It's strange, but it happened a year ago." After Zhang Xinghong told Yunjian the details, Yunjian's eyes narrowed. The next second, she didn't even say goodbye to Murong Ranran as she turned around and ran away. In less than 3 seconds, the news was in front of everyone. What are you doing?" Zhang Xinghong was dumbfounded when he saw Yunjian run away, still clutching the 100 yuan she gave him in his arms. "You're giving it all to me just like that?" Zhang Xinghong looked at Murong Ranran in surprise. On the other hand, Yunjian flew back to Hezhou City, the city where Si Yuan and Zhou Yiran had temporarily settled down. Once she arrived, Yunjian dashed into Zhou Yiran's room and spoke to him, who was busy sorting out the information she had given him. "Have you eliminated all the people who can't be the mysterious man?" Zhou Yiran looked up and nodded, then passed a new set of information to Yun Jian. On this piece of paper was written all the people Yun Jian had met after she was reborn in Longmen City. She had eliminated those who could not be the mysterious man, leaving only those who were suspicious. Yun Jian scanned the paper from top to bottom. When she saw one of the names on the paper that overlapped with the main character of the incident she had heard, her eyes widened. She found it. This person must be the mysterious man's predecessor. This person was none other than M. Chapter 2663. Ahem, Auntie Yunjian. Zhou Yiran saw Yunjian's pupils suddenly shrink. He raised his eyes, and there was a trace of inquiry in his expression. Take good care of Yuan. Remember, no matter what happens, whether the future will be changed, whether he and I can survive, you must promise me that you will take good care of Yuan. Yun Jian held the piece of paper that Zhou Yiran had sorted out with a few suspected mysterious people on it. She did not wait for Zhou Yiran to ask her a question. After saying this solemnly, she walked out. As soon as she opened the door to Zhou Yiran's room, she saw Si Yuan holding a big rabbit doll. She rubbed her eyes and looked at Yun Jian. Mommy, where are you going? Si Yuan's big eyes blinked. They were very beautiful. It seemed that she had just woken up. Although Si Yuan was already 15 or 16 years old, she still maintained the innocence of a child. There were many things in the adult world that she did not understand. She needed to be protected. Follow him and don't run around. Yun Jian pulled Si Yuan in front of Zhou Yiran and said sternly. After saying this, Yun Jian lifted her feet and walked out of the door. Just as she took 2 steps, she felt that her clothes were tightly grasped by someone. Yun Jian's deep eyes narrowed again. She turned her head slightly and saw that Si Yuan was tightly grasping her clothes. She looked like she would not let go no matter what. Yun Jian was about to reprimand her, but she suddenly saw a trace of moisture flash across Si Yuan's eyes. Her heart tightened. 3 years ago, Mommy, you said this. I have been waiting for you at home, but all I got was the news that you and Daddy would never return to my side. Those days were undoubtedly Si Yuan's nightmares for the rest of her life. Si Yuan's hand tightly grasped Yun Jian's clothes. Her 5 fingers were clasped very tightly. Because she was grasping Yun Jian's clothes so tightly, Si Yuan's knuckles turned white. She shook up and down and trembled crazily. That kind of fear was engraved into Si Yuan's soul, and she would never forget it. Yun Jian was silent. After 10 seconds of dead silence, her other hand grabbed Si Yuan's small hand that was clutching the hem of her clothes. Then, he forcefully pulled away Si Yuan's small hand, which was gripping the hem of his shirt so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. I will definitely come back alive. After she finished speaking, Yun Jian pushed Si Yuan into Zhou Yiran's arms and closed the door behind her. Si Yuan's sudden loud cries were completely shut behind the door. Yun Jian took one last look. Zhou Yiran hugged Si Yuan and did not let her rush out. Turning around, Yun Jian left without looking back. She swore that this time, she would come back alive. For the child, for the parents, and most importantly, for himself. At the entrance of the space-time forest. Chapter 2664. Without the mystery man, it meant that Yun Jian and Ce would not come to Earth, nor would they be close to anyone they knew on Earth. Killing the mystery man before he became a mystery man meant that they had returned to the starting point before anything had begun. The mystery man had messed up time and space, allowing them to meet. If Yun Jian restored time and space to the starting point, everything would not have started. The year 2004. Walking in an era that was completely different from 2019, where there were no mobile phones and cars were everywhere, Yun Jian felt conflicted. Lifting her hand to look at the fiery red sun in the sky, it was as if she was looking at the day when she had just been reborn in Longmen City. The sky was as bright and sunny as it was today. Yun Jian looked at the fiery red sun through her slender hand. 3 seconds later, a pair of palms that were longer and more perfect than Yun Jian's held her hand. Xiao Jian, no matter where you are in the future, I'll always be with you. He knew her hesitation. Whether it was as the king of sorcerer god of Yulong mainland or slaying god, the top secret agent in the international ranking, Yun Jian was the king of kings. However, as a king, she craved kinship and was satisfied with everything she had now. To let go of everything and return to her past life was no doubt a heavy blow to Yun Jian. Siyi's words struck a chord in Yun Jian. Her hand unconsciously clasped his 5 fingers behind hers. Whether it was her as the sorcerer god or slaying god, he would always be by her side. She would never be alone. According to the intel, it's here. Yun Jian was standing in a corner of an open space, her gaze fixed ahead. Ce and Yuan Xing stood beside her. 3 minutes later, the mystery man who had yet to become a mystery man would pass by here. As long as the mystery man was killed, everything would be over. Yuan Xing nodded from the side. Time was ticking away, second by second. 3 minutes later, a silhouette suddenly appeared at a corner of the open space. That was, Yun Jian licked her lips and clenched the butterfly knife in her hand. However, just as she was about to attack in the next second, a powerful barrier suddenly lit up around her. That powerful barrier seemed to have been premeditated as it surrounded the area, including where Yun Jian and Ce were. This barrier, we've been tricked. Yuan Xing's deep eyes fiercely moved as he spoke with a somewhat gloomy expression. This barrier must have been set up a long time ago. Just by looking at its thickness and sturdiness. Yuan Xing spoke again. After he finished, his pupils constricted slightly. In the next second, Yuan Xing's eyes widened and he said something that made Yun Jian and Ce frown. Looks like he has already planned this out. It seemed that the mysterious man had already planned to have a decisive battle with Yun Jian and the others here. In the future world, the mysterious man and Yun Jian's group perished together in 2016. But now, it had been brought forward by 12 years. Yun Jian's eyes were terrifyingly deep at this moment. Within the barrier, it could be a smoky battlefield. However, outside the barrier, ordinary people could not see the world within the barrier. That was the power of the barrier. At this moment, a large group of people in black robes suddenly appeared around them. All of them were dressed in black robes, revealing only a pair of dark eyes. However, that was not the point. The point was that after the appearance of this group of people in black robes, everyone who had anything to do with Yun Jian suddenly appeared within the barrier out of thin air. Yes, everyone. Including Yun Jian's biological parents when she was slaying God, Zhou Ran's family. Chapter 2665. Not to mention Zhou Ran's family, Zhou Ran, Yunmu, and Yun Ni. Gu Junjian, Qin Yiru, Xinjiang Town's Lin Mingyu, Yuan Yingjun, Yun Jian's former father, Yun Gang, Zhang Jifan, Qin Yiru's mother's family, Zhang Meihua, Qin Junlan, and the rest. Everyone had suddenly appeared here. However, there were far more people who had suddenly appeared. Everyone from Xinjiang Town's basketball team, Lu Fian, Si Chu, Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Sini, Ling Yichen, and even Mad Dragon, Di Lin, Leng Mei, and the rest. Everyone who Yun Jian had met had suddenly been transported here. Everyone. Even Bailey Yen and the Lord from Deity Continent, and the witch tribe from Yulong mainland. Those who were still alive and whom Yun Jian had met had all gathered here. There were at least a few thousand of them. Yun Jian's eyes darkened fiercely at this moment. She had planned to quietly kill the mysterious person who had yet to become a mysterious person and return everything to square one. However, the mysterious person had set up a barrier before Yunjian made her move. He had even transported all the people who Yunjian had met here from all over the world using the transportation formation. He had really come prepared. Sister, where is this place? Yunjian held her head and shook it, looking at Yunjian in bewilderment. Glancing around, she did not even know where she was now. Why were we suddenly sent here? No one knew what had happened. Yunmu was Yunjian's younger sister when she was slaying God in her previous life. At this moment, Yunmu was scratching her short hair, looking confused. Yunjian. What are you doing? Haven't you done enough to me? Lin Mingyu, whom she had first met in Xinjiang town, had her arms crossed in front of her chest. When she saw Yunjian, whom she had not seen for a long time, she was so scared that she kept retreating. When Yuan Ingjun saw the increasingly beautiful Yunjian, a trace of regret flashed through his eyes. However, he swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva. When he saw Ce, he took a step back and did not dare to step forward. He still remembered the pain he had suffered. The members of the martial arts club in Jiangxing City, Mo Bufan and the others, as well as Kai Huiling, who had always regarded Yunjian as her mortal enemy. Everyone who had met Yunjian before was present. Yunjian's frown deepened. What on earth did the mysterious man want to do? Just as everyone's hearts trembled, a burst of laughter rang out from the top of the barrier. Ha ha ha. Ha. Welcome to my world. As soon as he finished speaking, a person dressed in a black robe with only a pair of pitch-black eyes that were filled with hatred suddenly appeared in front of everyone. The mysterious man. The mysterious man, who had been defeated by Yunjian and Ce last time, abandoned his body and tore open his soul to run away, once again stood in front of Yunjian and Ce. The mysterious man who suddenly appeared glanced around and glanced at all the people who were involved in it. In the next second, he laughed again. You must be very surprised. Why are you here? This is all thanks to her. It's time to get ready to end this boring game. You will all become the souls of the dead under my sword. After the mysterious man appeared, his sharp and harsh voice pierced the ears of everyone present. When everyone heard this, their hearts trembled with fear. In spite of it, they could all tell that they were here because of Yunjian. Just as everyone turned to look at Yunjian, Yunjian's furrowed brows slowly relaxed. She looked at the mysterious man, her red arc moving slightly. The next second, she chuckled and suddenly spoke coldly, directly revealing the mysterious man's identity. I used to treat you as my senior, the best captain, the leader of the team, but you disappointed me too much. The mysterious man was none other than the leader of Team Monarch who had gone through thick and thin with Yunjian and the others to reach where they were today through countless trials and tribulations. He had stood resolutely in front of them and shielded them from the storm. Lu Shiyun. M. Chapter 2666. The leader of Team Monarch, Lu Shiyun. Since Yunjian was reborn in Longmen City and was chosen by Gu Junjian to be a member of Team Monarch, Lu Shiyun had been fulfilling his duty as the leader. He was steady, aloof from worldly affairs, and did not compete with others for fame or benefits. He was an excellent leader. However, it was such a person who had been secretly targeting Yunjian. From the time Yunjian broke up the sorcerer goddess and the deity lord when she was still the sorcerer goddess, to the kidnapping of Xiao Yunju when Yunjian became slaying god, to the manic pursuit of Yunjian and Ce, to the end where he tricked Yunjian into almost having a miscarriage when Yunjian was pregnant. These two seemingly unrelated people were actually the same person. Yunjian was equally stunned when she found out the truth about this unexpected turn of events. Yunjian what senior and leader? Why are we here all of a sudden? Has the world turned into a fantasy? You almost scared me just now. I've just showered at home. If it was a minute earlier, I would have come here naked. Chu Ning glanced around and walked over with a look of surprise. She even covered her clothes with her hands, looking as if she had no idea what was going on. The people around them were the same. Those who had boasted in front of Yun Jian, or those who had offended and been suppressed by Yun Jian, or those who had received help from Yun Jian, were baffled at first before they asked around in shock what was going on. Since they did not know what was going on, the hubbub of thousands of people around them was as noisy as a large market when their voices overlapped. Yun Jian did not respond to Chu Ning. Everyone in Team Monarch, including Chu Ning, except Lu Shiyun, looked at Yun Jian in confusion. Yun Jian, on the other hand, leaped lightly in front of thousands of people and landed on a pile of cement pipes that were as big as 3 schools in the sky. Behind her was a group of thousands of ordinary people who had come into contact with Yun Jian, who had been swept into the incident. In front of her was the mysterious man and his subordinates. Yun Jian stood high on the pile of cement pipes, her gaze cold and intimidating. Among the crowd, everyone who had been in contact with Yun Jian, be it good or bad, stopped talking at this moment. This magical teleportation had sent them here all of a sudden. They were surrounded by a barrier and could not walk out. Those who did not know what was going on thought that it was amusing. Yunmu, what's going on? Zhou Qiong, Mu Zishi, Wan Yuyu, Jing Qing, and the rest could not help coming over to ask Yun Jian's younger sister, Yunmu. I don't know. Yunmu's eyes were fixed on Yun Jian's, who was standing on the cement pipes. Her instincts told her that Yun Jian, her sister whom she had lost contact with for more than a decade, must be hiding some shocking secret. And this secret was very likely to be completely revealed today. However, Yunmu was not the only one who had this thought. After Yun Jian was reborn in Longmen City, she had been in contact with many people. Those who had been in contact with Yun Jian were all shocked and bewildered by what was happening before them. While everyone was pondering, Yun Jian, who was standing on the cement pipe, glanced at the mysterious person with a sharp gaze. She used the same words that slain god and sorcerer goddess had always been arrogant and never changed as she spoke coldly and haughtily in front of everyone. You're right. Do you think that you can threaten me by dragging them into our battlefield? Today, I'll kill you here even if you use 10,000 times the potion or 10 million times the potion. I swear in the name of Yulong Mainland's daughter, the sorcerer goddess, the former god of war of Yulong Mainland, that the only one who will die here today will be you, Lu Shiyun. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2667. It didn't matter why Lu Shiyun changed from an ordinary person to a mysterious person who wanted to kill her. Yun Jian had said that she would never accept any betrayal. No matter who it was. Anyone who betrayed Yun Jian would be killed. Anyone who offended her would be killed as an example to others. Even if it was her closest kin, it would still be the same. She, Yun Jian, was not a kind person, let alone being compared to a good person. Bloodthirsty was the king. Killing, war, and hegemony, this was the world that belonged to her. Because in such a world, she could find the value of her life. She was the king, and always had been. She would not allow anyone to stand in front of her and be arrogant. If there was, she would kill. She was the king, Yun Jian, no matter what she did or did, her name was Yun Jian. Lu Shiyun. Captain. What's going on? When Chu Ning and the others heard Yun Jian's words, they suddenly trembled. Even an idiot could tell that Yun Jian and the mysterious person who was shrouded in a black robe had a blood feud of either you die or I live. So, where did the captain go? Chu Xiangnan, with his crooked brain, could not figure it out for a while. Everyone was puzzled. Ha ha ha. At this time, the mysterious person standing in front of Yun Jian stopped pretending. He tore off the black robe that wrapped around his body and had not shown it to anyone for so many years, revealing a familiar yet unfamiliar face. The mysterious person was indeed Lu Shiyun, but compared to the current Lu Shiyun in his 20s, he was from the future and had a more mature look. His middle-aged face was not bad-looking, and it was a sharp contrast to the youthful Lu Shiyun. The mysterious person from the future, Lu Shiyun, looked more mature and older than the Lu Shiyun of the present world, but his face was also a little darker. It was the kind of dark and gloomy feeling that came from his glabella. One thing was certain, Lu Shiyun in 2004 had not become the mysterious person who would be unpardonably evil in the future. The bad was only him in the future. This made Yun Jian want to find out what Lu Shiyun had encountered in the future. Captain. No. Isn't that Captain? He looks older than Captain. The members of Team Monarch were horrified when they saw the mysterious person's face. Everyone present, including Yun Jian, Zhou Qiong, Mu Zixi, Zhang Meihua, and the rest of Longmen City, Mo Bufan and the rest of the University of River Town students, was only curious about one thing. Why did Yun Jian call herself the witch goddess of Yulong mainland? However, before anyone could think too much about it, the mysterious man took a big step forward. He raised his hand, and a few large bottles of 10,000-fold potion appeared in his hand. Before anyone could react, he immediately swallowed it. Don't talk nonsense, come on. Let me see how strong you are to challenge me alone. The mysterious man walked towards Yun Jian with a gloomy face. At some point, Ce and Yun Jian were standing side by side on the cement pipe. Ce held Yun Jian's hand tightly and refused to let go. However, just as the mysterious man was walking towards them, a loud voice suddenly came from the crowd. Yun Jian isn't alone. I, Zhang Jifan, have chosen to follow her. I'll be Yun Jian's subordinate for the rest of my life. Until death do us part. It's because I'm her sturdiest shield. The one who spoke was the CEO of New Cruise, Zhang Jifan, who was managing Yun Jian's company. Zhang Jifan stood behind Yun Jian after he finished speaking. Among the thousands of people present, someone saw Zhang Jifan's face and recognized Zhang Jifan at once. Zhang Jifan. New Cruise's CEO, Zhang Jifan, is Yun Jian's subordinate. Doesn't that mean Yun Jian is New Cruise's director? Someone exclaimed in the crowd. Those who were unaware of Yun Jian's identity and those who were aware of Yun Jian's identity were stunned. New Cruise. They had already promoted the company to the entire world, becoming Z Nation's pioneer and an international brand that had a firm foothold in the international arena. That's right. The proudest thing that I, Su Zitian, have done in my life is to follow Yun Jian. Falcon Hall is glorious because of her. I'll forever follow that woman named Luo Sha. I'll never change. After Zhang Jifan stepped forward, a majestic and determined voice rang out again. The crowd watched as another figure walked out from the crowd. This person had the aura of a mafia boss. However, before Yun Jian, he was willing to show weakness. Su Zitian, the manager of Z Nation's biggest mafia boss, Luo Sha. The crowd was once again startled. Some people even forgot about the battle in front of them. They used the most panicked tone in their lives to shout out loud, a voice that reverberated throughout the entire area and shook everyone present. New Cruise. Falcon Hall. She, Yun Jian, is New Cruise's director and Falcon Hall's legendary boss, Luo Sha. M. Chapter 2668. Unwavering even in death. Unwavering even in death. What a firm and determined voice it was. Zhang Jifan and Su Zitian. One was an elite who dominated the global market in the legal world. The other was an eagle who dominated the world in the mafia world. Both of them were dragons among men who had almost monopolized country Z's economy. They followed Yun Jian with such determination and unyielding aura that they swore to follow Yun Jian to their deaths. In such a dangerous situation, there was no need for Yun Jian to order them as their superiors. They stepped forward and stood on the same side as Yun Jian. This was no longer a matter of absolute obedience between superiors and subordinates. Yun Jian's capability and capital had made these two elites who stood at the pinnacle of the pyramid in the eyes of outsiders to obey her orders to their deaths. It was an absolute obedience that came from the bottom of their hearts, from the depths of their souls. They did not need any instructions and would never back down when Yun Jian was in trouble. The courage to charge forward. Who was she, Yun Jian? How could she make these two elites who stood at the pinnacle of the pyramid who had monopolized both the legal and illegal worlds in country Z submit to her? Slaying Luo, the chairman of New Cruise and the boss of the mafia's Falcon Hall, she. The old lady who held a grudge against Zhou Ran for not being able to protect her son because Zhou Ran had given birth to Yun Jian who had yet to be reborn, as well as her younger daughter, Yun Sheng, and had accidentally lost her son, Yun Ju, whom she had painstakingly given birth to. She clutched her chest, almost suffocating from the shock. Zhou Ran, Yun Ni, Yun Mu, Zhou Ran, and everyone else who was present. Even Zhang Meihua and the others from Longmen City were glaring at Yun Jian with bulging eyes, their faces turning purple from fright. Everyone, including those who had failed to lay a hand on Yun Jian and were retaliated against by Yun Jian instead, had their eyes wide open. All of them widened their eyes in shock. While they were terrified of Yun Jian's identity, they were reminded of the terrifying things they had said or done to her in the past. If she were to really attack them, she would only need to move a finger. Besides, Yun Jian was only 19 years old. What kind of environment did such a legendary woman who could be regarded as a miracle of the world grow up in? Before they could recover from their shock, the old man chuckled. The mysterious man cackled as if he already knew Yun Jian's identity. He took another step forward and could not help sneering at Zhang Jifan and Su Zetian's foolish behavior. If Zhang Jifan's New Cruise and Su Zetian's Falcon Hall, then Yun Jian's. Then, you're a man. At this moment, an enchanting woman suddenly walked out from the crowd. This enchanting woman twisted her body as she walked out from the crowd and arrived in front of the crowd. The person who had arrived was none other than the demoness. Ever since you saved me, Temptress, and handed Rongyao Company over to me to manage, I've been with you for so many years. I'm considered your senior. You should add me to the list of people who stand behind you. Temptress crossed her arms and said those words in a calm voice that shocked everyone. The president of Rongyao Company, Temptress. That meant Rongyao Company. Rongyao Company, one of the top 10 international corporations in the world, the richest Rongyao Company in the world, is Yun Jian's too. When someone heard this, he used a voice that was close to a roar to shout out this sentence. Not only that. Far more than that. Other than New Cruise and Falcon Hall. And Rongyao Company. Ordinary people could not even touch a corner of a company founded by Yun Jian in their lifetime, but Yun Jian had founded so many top international companies one after another. Could it be that she wasn't human? Chapter 2670. The higher-ups of the Kosha mercenaries were all there. All of them stood behind Yun Jian without hesitation and swore a blood oath that shook the heavens. It was all thanks to Yun Jian that they were able to achieve what they had today. If Yun Jian was gone one day, their future would cease to exist as well. That deafening howl of determination caused an uproar among everyone present. Yunmu and the rest were stunned when they heard it. Gu Junjian, Qin Yiru, and the rest felt an inexplicable sense of pride when they heard it. Hearing that, Team Monarch, T-Rex, Best Squad, and the rest felt a sense of awe and delusion ignite in their hearts. Those who once had all sorts of prejudices and conflicts against Yun Jian, led by Lin Mingyu, were now looking at her as if she was a stranger. They never thought that Yun Jian would stand at the top of the crowd one day, looking at her as if she was out of their reach. Kosha Mercenaries. The mercenary group that was on par with the #1 international assassin organization, and Hun Group. Yun Jian was the Kosha mercenaries' boss. Legend had it that she came and went without a trace. She was the #1 international secret agent on the secret agent leaderboard, slaying God. At that moment, the crowd was not only shocked by the actions of the higher-ups of the Kosha mercenaries, they were also shocked by the revelation of Yun Jian's identity by the higher-ups of the Kosha mercenaries. Yun Jian. She's. Goo. 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 Goo Shaw. Those who once disliked Yun Jian now had frightening expressions on their faces. They could not even complete a sentence at that moment. This child was kidnapped when she was young. Could she have been kidnapped to become an assassin? My child. How much have you suffered? Zhou Ran suddenly covered her face when she learned the truth. She squatted down and started crying secretly. Yunmu looked at Yun Jian, who stood above the crowd, and had an indescribable feeling. She felt as if she was very far away from Yun Jian, her biological sister. Everyone present was in a state of shock. This was because the person standing in front of them was not just a 19-year-old girl, nor was she the queen of both the underworld and the underworld of Z country. He wasn't just the chairman of a multinational corporation. She was still the ruler of the world. The legendary slaying god who was so powerful that it made people tremble in fear. Sorcerer God, how can I, Lan Su, not be by your side? 1,000 years ago, you were in charge of the Wu clan. You led our Yulong continent from a low-level continent that could be humiliated by other continents to the throne of the #1 continent among thousands of continents. I have always followed you. I am the only one by your side. Now that I've seen with my own eyes that so many people are willing to stand behind you, I'm happy for you. Whether it was 1,000 years ago or today, Lan Su has followed you for tens of thousands of years. He has fought alongside you and killed countless experts of the continent. I once swore that no matter when or where, no matter what kind of situation I am in, Lan Su, the daughter of the Wu clan, will always be the first person behind you. Please don't abandon me, Sorcerer God. It was Lan Su who had used his spiritual power to open the barrier passage and led the Kosha mercenaries into the barrier. At this moment, Lan Su spoke from the side as he walked slowly toward them. Every sentence was imprinted in everyone's ears. They did not understand what Lan Su meant by 1,000 years ago and Yulong continent. However, every sentence that came out of Lan Su's mouth stirred up everyone's emotions. Every sentence seemed to remind them of the time when the sorcerer god had only Lan Su by his side. They fought alone against the experts of various continents and finally led Yulong continent to the #1 continent among thousands of continents. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2671. She, Lan Su, would have stood behind Yun Jian without hesitation 1,000 years ago. Today, 1,000 years later, even though she had her own family, her intention to follow Yun Jian would never change. At this moment, Yun Jian had turned slightly and looked at the people standing behind her. She had thought that she was alone from the beginning to the end, but when she looked back, she suddenly realized that there were so many people standing behind her. Yunjian's slightly furrowed eyebrows were gently smoothed out. She suddenly held the hand of the man standing beside her and drew a red arc that made the world lose its color. Lu Shiyun, no matter how many bottles of 10,000 times elixir you drink, the people standing behind you will always be puppets. But the people standing behind me are people who are worthy of my life to protect them. It seems that the only person who will fight alone will be you. Yunjian glanced sideways at the mysterious man with a sneer and a hint of mockery on her lips. Yes, no matter how many black-robed men stood behind the mysterious man, Lu Shiyun, those black-robed men were just puppets who would only obey the mysterious man's orders. From the moment he did this series of things, he had already been possessed by the devil and there was no turning back. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. The mysterious man, who was walking towards Yunjian and Ce, finally stopped. He was halfway there when he suddenly stopped. Who said so? Who said that I'm fighting alone? This group of puppets without consciousness can only be my subordinates. And in this world, the only one who will never betray me is yourself. Come out. I'm in my 20s. Ha ha ha. Let's rule this world together. Together, let's completely destroy this group of damned people from this world. The earth, the 10,000 continents, the gods' continent, they're all mine. All mine. The mysterious man had reached the point of madness. Yunjian's words had deeply pierced his heart. When the word betrayal was mentioned, his pitch-black eyes twisted fiercely. The only one who will never betray me is myself. Yunjian's eyes twitched fiercely. She subconsciously looked behind the mysterious man and at the periphery of the boundary. He saw a tall and slender man with regular facial features, who was as mature and steady as ever, walking over. It was Lu Shiyun. In 2004, Lu Shiyun was in his 20s. Unlike the mysterious man from the future, Lu Shiyun in 2004 obviously had not experienced any painful past. However, the moment he walked over, his brows furrowed slightly. There was a trace of seriousness on his face, but it quickly disappeared. Captain. Why is he standing together with the bad guy? No, they are the same person. The one who has been going against Yunjian is the captain. Chu Ning watched from afar as Lu Shiyun, the leader of Team Monarch, the mature and steady leader of the organization, walked to the mysterious man's side. Chu Ning's heart skipped a beat when she saw this. She seemed to be unable to accept the reality in front of her. She took a big step back and suddenly sat on the ground. The rest of Team Monarch did not fare any better. Lu Shiyun in 2004 still had the same feeling when he was with Yunjian and the others. However, when he walked to the mysterious man's side, his face suddenly revealed the same ferocious expression as the mysterious man. He looked at everyone and finally fixed his eyes on Yunjian. You didn't expect this, did you? The person you've been looking for is actually someone close to you. What a pity. Before you realized that the mysterious man was me and wanted to kill me, I was saved by my future self. Chapter 2672. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Campus Rebirth, The Strongest Female Secret Agent Chapter 2672, The War Begins, The Battlefield, Finale 1 Part 2, Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 2673. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Sir God, it turns out that you're only this tough. Is it because my 10,000x potion is too powerful, or is it because you're too weak? Ha ha ha. The mysterious man retracted his spiritual power. When he saw a trace of blood flowing from the corner of Ce's mouth, he burst into laughter. The limit of the 10,000x potion was a dozen bottles. If he drank any more, he would die in front of everyone, given his physique. Lu Shiyun's current physique was only suitable for 3 bottles of the 10,000 Axe potion. If Lu Shiyun drank any more, he would die on the spot. Moreover, the mysterious man had drunk the 10,000 Axe potion so many times that he had accumulated many side effects in his body. This time, he drank 10 bottles of the 10,000 Axe potion at once. Even if the mysterious man survived the battle, he would not be able to make any progress in his spiritual power in the future. For this reason, the mysterious man would have to pay a higher price. Lu Shiyun was forced to drink 3 bottles of the 10,000 Axe potion by the mysterious man, so he would have to pay the price for it. At this moment, the mysterious man was mocking Ce in his most domineering voice. I can't believe you were injured by me. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Pfft. His laughter was louder and louder, as if it could break the sky. However, as he laughed, the mysterious man's voice suddenly came to an abrupt stop. A mouthful of blood suddenly spurted from the mysterious man's nose and mouth. He took 2 big steps back and was obviously seriously injured by Ce. It took more than 10 bottles of the 10,000 Axe potion to tie with Ce. Ah! Ah ah ah! The mysterious man howled as he spat out blood. Wiping away the blood from his mouth, he was about to gather his spiritual energy to fight Yunjian and Ce again when the mysterious man was interrupted. Suddenly, he saw Yunjian take out 3 magical weapons. A sandalwood box, a wooden fan, and a wooden hairpin. These 3 divine artifacts exuded a powerful spiritual energy that was so dense that it could pierce through the sky. In front of thousands of people, Yunjian slashed her wrist to check her pulse with the wooden hairpin. Before Ce could react to stop her, she placed the wooden fan in the sandalwood box and drained the blood that gushed out into the box like she was letting it out. That move of his was clean and efficient, without the slightest bit of mercy. She did not frown the whole time. Yunjian's action of cutting her wrist and letting blood surprised everyone. At this moment, the blood that flowed through the wooden hairpin into the sandalwood box and the wooden fan suddenly emitted a red light as bright as the sun in the sky. The red light was like an infrared ray that pierced through the sky, piercing the eyes of everyone present and causing them to close their eyes involuntarily. So did the mysterious man. When the red light flashed, all of the spiritual power in the wooden hairpin and the sandalwood box gathered into the wooden fan in front of everyone's eyes. The wooden fan, the box, 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 the hairpin, the box, the box, the box, and the box. However, it did not have a blade. Yunjian was delighted. She immediately took out the god-vanquishing blade from her waist. Just as she was about to put the blade of the god-vanquishing blade into the bladeless butterfly knife formed by the 3 magical weapons, Ce did not even care about the blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. He frowned and grabbed Yunjian's bleeding wrist. The next second, he tore open the corner of his shirt and bandaged her wound as fast as he could with a dark face. If they were not fighting the mysterious man, he would have reprimanded Yunjian in front of everyone for not taking care of her own body. Yunjian could clearly see that Ce's handsome face was filled with unspeakable heartache. Yunjian turned without hesitation. Seeing that Yunjian had turned to save him, the mysterious man shouted at Lu Shiyun, "Retreat! Retreat!" He wanted to escape. And just like what he said, the mysterious man only trusted himself, the past him. He even did not want his subordinates. Obviously, the situation had developed to the point where the mysterious man could not control it. And the blow with Ce had injured the mysterious man. Seeing this, Lu Shiyun retreated to where the mysterious man was as fast as he could. Wizard God, immortal, I will not let you go. Wait and see. I will not stop until I destroy you. The mysterious man roared and turned around, intending to retreat with Lu Shiyun. Yun Jian had stopped the mysterious man from attacking Qin Yiru and the others. She had no time to stop the mysterious man from escaping. Ce, on the other hand, remained where he was. The mysterious man turned around, intending to retreat with Lu Shiyun as soon as possible. But the moment the mysterious man turned around, Lu Shiyun, who was behind him, suddenly hugged him. You, what are you doing? When the mysterious man realized Lu Shiyun's action, he stared at Lu Shiyun in disbelief, looking at his former self. A cultivator could detonate his body on the spot and release a strength that was 10,000 times stronger than his own. It was commonly known as self-explosion. The epicenter of self-explosion would be barren, and no one would survive. Just as the mysterious man realized Lu Shiyun's action, the self-explosion point had already been activated in Lu Shiyun's body. Lu Shiyun turned to look at Yun Jian and Team Monarch. The ferocious look on his face that was identical to the mysterious man's gradually faded. He suddenly flashed a faint smile at everyone. It was so gentle that it reminded Yun Jian and Team Monarch of his composure and steadiness when they first met Lu Shiyun. The self-explosion point in Lu Shiyun's body was rapidly activated. He glanced at Team Monarch and suddenly set his eyes on Yun Jian. He spoke, as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders, and the last harsh words he said before he left this world. Everyone, I'm sorry. It seems that I still can't accept my future self, but I'm afraid that he'll be lonely when he leaves. Team Monarch's captain, Lu Shiyun, hereby applies to retire from the position of captain of Team Monarch forever. Please approve. M. Xiang Weilan also fell in love with Lu Shiyun, who took care of her, but she didn't dare to tell Lu Shiyun about her lowly identity. She was dirty, very dirty, so dirty that even she despised herself. But in order to survive, in order to eat, in order to survive, she sold herself. Later, Lu Shiyun found out about her past. He didn't despise her, but she despised herself. Later, for Lu Shiyun, Xiang Weilan refused to accept any more customers. Unknowingly, she offended the big shots and was beaten up countless times. But she didn't dare to tell Lu Shiyun, afraid that he would feel bad. She was afraid of hurting Lu Shiyun, so she left Lu Shiyun in the name of betrayal. She also begged the future Yun Jian not to save her if she died. Because she couldn't face Lu Shiyun anymore. Later, Xiang Weilan died. She was raped and killed by the big shots and stabbed to death. Lu Shiyun knew that Yun Jian had superb medical skills. He hugged Xiang Weilan and begged Yun Jian to save her, but he was cruelly rejected by Yun Jian. Men in love were usually irrational. Because of this, he hated Yun Jian and felt that Yun Jian did it on purpose. The name Xiang Weilan was given by Xiang Weilan herself. She hoped that one day, she could fly towards the blue sky, as white and flawless as the clouds floating in the sky, as clean as her singing. She did it. She flew towards the blue sky. She did it. M. Chapter 2678. Lu Shiyun and Xiang Weilan's story was both beautiful and sad. It was the summer of 2015. Lu Shiyun, who was rushing home from the military, passed by a bar street near his home. Originally, he was in a hurry to go home, but when he passed by, he was attracted by a melodious song that sounded like the chirping of an oriole. Humans are emotional creatures, and they can't help but be attracted by things that can attract them. Lu Shiyun stepped into the bar and saw a young lady sitting at the front desk. She seemed to have experienced a lot. The girl's eyelashes were very long, and under the neon lights, her slender figure was beautiful. Lu Shiyun felt that the moment he stepped into the bar, the girl raised her eyes slightly and looked back at him. She didn't know that this glance completely changed the fate of both of them. From then on, Lu Shiyun couldn't help but step into this bar every day, just to see the girl. Over time, it became a habit. But the two of them never said a word to each other. Until one day, when Lu Shiyun heard a young girl singing a beautiful melody, he turned around and left. The girl put down the microphone and rushed out of the bar. She took out a wallet from her pocket and handed it to Lu Shiyun. "Sir, this is the wallet you accidentally dropped yesterday. When I picked it up, you were already gone. Take it back." The girl kept her head down the whole time. Lu Shiyun finally saw the girl's face at close range. Just like the girl's singing, the girl's face was as small as a palm. Lu Shiyun took the wallet, but before he could thank her, the girl turned and ran away. From then on, Lu Shiyun still came to watch the girl sing every day, but the two of them never got to know each other. Until one day, Lu Shiyun turned to leave after listening to the girl singing. Suddenly, there was a burst of noise behind him. "Let me go! Let me go!" The girl's cry for help was immediately heard. It was a dozen big men who rushed up and dragged the girl out. One of the big men raised his hand and slapped the girl, causing her ears to ring and a heavy bruise to appear on her face. "Bitch, don't pretend to be virtuous. If you don't listen, I'll strip you naked on the spot." The big man roared, raised his hand, and was about to give her another heavy slap. But this slap, before it fell into the girl's hand, it was caught by a large hand. It was Lu Shiyun. "Yo, little brat, why aren't you letting go of me? Be careful, I'll find someone to kill you." But before the last three words left the man's mouth, Lu Shiyun didn't even look at him. He raised his hand and placed a document in front of the group of men. "Police." After seeing the clear handwriting on the document, the group of burly men was stunned. "Consider yourself lucky." Seeing this, the large man spat at the young girl and left with his men. Lu Shiyun personally escorted the girl back to her residence, a dilapidated slum that couldn't be any more dilapidated. "Well, thank you." Just as Lu Shiyun was about to leave, the girl who had been silent all this time finally spoke. After 2 seconds of silence, the girl suddenly turned around and gave Lu Shiyun a smile that would make Lu Shiyun fall for her for the rest of his life. "My name is Xiang Weilan. It's a name I gave myself. My dream is to be as pure and flawless as the clouds in the blue sky one day. What about you?" The girl's smile made Lu Shiyun blush. Since then, Lu Shiyun and the girl got to know each other, understood each other, and were attracted to each other. In the end, they couldn't escape love. Xiang Weilan kept telling herself that she was just greedy for his goodness. After a while, she would leave. He was a soldier and she shouldn't hold him back. A dirty girl like her wasn't good enough for him. Xiang Weilan was sold into a brothel by her mother when she was young and was forced to serve customers. She named herself Xiang Weilan because she wanted to be as pure and flawless as the clouds in the blue sky one day. She longed for a clean life. After falling in love with Lu Shiyun, Xiang Weilan used the money she had accumulated over the years in exchange for a chance to redeem herself. Although she was beaten up by her mother in the brothel in the end, she was able to escape. Lu Shiyun didn't know about it. He introduced her to Yun Jian and the rest of Team Monarch. She also got to know Yun Jian, who stood at the peak of everyone. Those were the happiest days of Xiang Weilan's life. She was carefree as if she was really living the life of her dreams. However, the good times didn't last. In the winter of 2017, the leader of the group of burly men who dragged her away from the bar came looking for her again. He was an international big shot. However, Xiang Weilon wasn't willing to serve any more customers. She didn't want to betray Lu Shiyun. However, the other party threatened her that if she didn't go, they would destroy Lu Shiyun's future and bright future. Xiang Weilon agreed, but she didn't dare to tell anyone. She only secretly looked for Yun Jian and told Yun Jian that if she was about to die one day, she begged her not to save her. Because a dirty person like her didn't have the right to spend the rest of her life with Lu Shiyun. Other than that, she didn't say anything else. Xiang Weilon knelt and kowtowed to Yun Jian until her head bled. Only then did Yun Jian agree to her. The purity that was lost could never be regained. No one was willing to give up. Xiang Weilon's wish was very small. She only hoped that her body could be as pure and flawless as the clouds, but she would never have the chance to do so. Chapter 2679. In order to completely disappear from Lu Shiyun's world, Xiang Weilon found all kinds of men and made out with them in front of Lu Shiyun. However, after Lu Shiyun quarreled with Xiang Weilon and left in anger, Xiang Weilon chased away the men who pretended to be her customers and hid in her room to cry. In order to make Lu Shiyun give up on her, Xiang Weilon even belittled him loudly. "You're just an ordinary person. You can't even compare to the money I earned under Mama Sang. How are you going to support me? I want a high-quality life, but what can you give me? I just think that you're good-looking, so I'm playing with you. Do you really think that I've met love?" Xiang Weilon's words were very firm. Because she had to pretend in front of the big bosses in the past, her words and expressions made Lu Shiyun unable to find any loopholes. After walking out of the room, Xiang Weilon dragged her luggage and squatted not far away from Lu Shiyun's house. She cried silently for the entire night. The next day, she went to the place where the big shot was. Who knew that the big shot had a strange habit? When she was forced to go to the big shot's house, there were more than a dozen of the big shot's friends waiting for her. Yes, the big shot's strange habit was that he liked to have sex with a group. Xiang Weilon refused to comply. In the end, she swallowed a glass shard and failed to commit suicide. This group of people lost their minds. After Xiang Weilon swallowed the glass shard and failed to commit suicide, they raped her. However, on the other side, Lu Shiyun received news that when he saw Xiang Weilon, she was already dying. Lu Shiyun loved her too deeply. He carried Xiang Weilon to seek treatment from Yun Jian. Xiang Weilon could no longer speak, but she said to him in a shrill voice, "I've never loved you. I just regret accepting their invitation today. I didn't expect them to make me eat glass shards. Otherwise, with my ability, I would definitely be able to live a good life." This sentence hurt Lu Shiyun both physically and mentally. When he found Yun Jian and asked for treatment, Yun Jian refused without even looking at him. To Lu Shiyun, when Xiang Weilon betrayed him, his loved one had just died in a car accident, and he was betrayed by the woman he loved. There was no way to seek treatment. Lu Shiyun knew that Yun Jian had the ability to save Xiang Weilon, but she didn't do anything. Perhaps his love was too deep. After Xiang Weilon's death, Lu Shiyun was completely dispirited. He became silent and didn't say a word. Finally, in 2018, the group of big shots who had killed Xiang Weilon were suddenly killed in a bar. The group of big shots were badly mutilated and dismembered. Their deaths were extremely tragic. The police found out that the person who killed this group of people was Lu Shiyun. By the time Lu Shiyun was fully apprehended, he was already nowhere to be found. After Xiang Weilan and Lu Shiyun transformed into dandelions and left with the wind, the truth was no longer known by those familiar with it. However, at the last moment, the two of them left behind two phantoms, embracing each other. They were happy. Back when Yun Jian was in the future world, which was 2019, she found out that the incident that happened in Longmen City was Lu Shiyun who had killed the group of big shots and dismembered them. It was because the perpetrator was Lu Shiyun, and after checking the suspect file given by Zhou Ran, Yun Jian guessed that the mysterious person was Lu Shiyun. Returning to reality, Xiang Weilan and Lu Shiyun's phantoms completely disappeared before Yun Jian and the rest. Everything was over. The barrier had been broken. Other than the thousands of people who were still frozen, everything that happened just now was like a nightmare. Mother! At that moment, a tall and handsome figure dashed out from the forest beside them. It was none other than the newcomer. It was the grown-up Si Tuo, also known as Xing Feng, who was being held captive by the mysterious person. Xing Feng was handsome, inheriting Si Yi's looks. When Xing Feng appeared, he rushed to Yun Jian almost instantly, reaching out to hug Yun Jian. However, just as he called out, "Mother," and was about to hug his long-lost mother, Si Yi tripped him. Si Yi suddenly tripped Xing Feng with his foot and pulled Yun Jian into his arms, glaring menacingly at Xing Feng. Xing Feng was speechless. Chapter 2680. Xing Feng shuddered when he saw Si Yi. He touched his head and stopped in his tracks. Ever since the God's continent was created, Xing Feng had spent so many years trying to change the fate of his parents. He had almost forgotten what his biological father looked like. With Si Yi around, he, as a son, could not even think about touching his mother, not even once. Cough. Xing Feng helplessly touched his handsome nose, then glanced at Si Yi. Father, Xing Feng still had an instinctive fear of Si Yi. When Xing Feng and Zhou Ran were young, Si Yi had thrown them into the Amazon forest and they had suffered a lot. Young master, we have successfully completed the task you gave us. Xing Feng rushed over. Behind him, Adam, Mo Sen, Shuang, and Lin Wei had also arrived. When the four leaders of the Enhun organization appeared, Adam took the lead and told Si Yi the good news that they had completed the task. In return, Si Yi softly replied, the four leaders of the Enhun organization did not arrive during the battle between Yun Jian and Si Yi. Even Di Lin, Leng Mei, and the others from the Blood Doll organization did not arrive because Si Yi had given them a task. That was to save Xing Feng. After Xing Feng was saved, he used his last bit of spiritual power to summon the phantom of the deceased Xiang Weilan. Phantom was a general term used by cultivators for people without a physical body or soul. It was a remnant will in the human world, nothing more. That was why Xiang Weilan and Lu Shiyun had turned into dandelions and flew into the blue sky. At least, their phantoms, which were their wills, were together. At the last moment, they had left with smiles. Ha ha ha. Work is done, work is done. Mother, how long has it been since I've eaten your cooking? How about you cook for me tonight and let me have a free meal? Xing Feng touched his nose and led the way forward. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly turned around. His handsome Si Yi face was filled with anticipation. Upon hearing that Xing Feng wanted Yun Jian to cook for him, Si Yi's face instantly darkened. Yun Jian was good at everything except spinning hula hoops and cooking. In the end, Xingfeng said that he had eaten Yun Jian's cooking. Even if it was a meal cooked by the future Yun Jian for Xingfeng, Si Yi's handsome face was tinged with annoyance when he heard what she said. Hey, mother, why don't you make my favorite food when I was young? I recall, it's that. After Xing Feng finished speaking, he turned around and walked in front of Yun Jian and Si Yi. He even rested his chin on his hand solemnly, carefully recalling the name of the dish Yun Jian had cooked for him back then. Xing Feng took 2 steps in front of Yun Jian and Ce. As he walked, a slender leg suddenly reached out from behind and hooked onto Xing Feng's long leg. This sudden attack caused Xing Feng to fall flat on his face. The ground was covered with grass mixed with mud that had been moistened by the rain. Not to mention how moist Xing Feng's face was when he suddenly fell to the ground. Xing Feng stood up and scolded angrily, Who has the guts to trip my foot? Xing Feng swept his eyes over the scene. In the end, when his eyes landed on Adam's group of 4, he suddenly saw Shui Ying's eyes glance to the side. This must be the culprit who tripped him and caused him to fall flat on his face. Xing Feng glared fiercely in the direction Shui Ying had indicated. However, he saw a handsome face that was 80% similar to his, except that the features were more distinct. Chapter 2681. When he realized that the person who had tripped him was actually his own father, Xing Feng even had the thought of dying. Father. Father, why did you trip me for no reason? Look at my clothes, they're all stained with mud. Although Xing Feng had lived for so many years and had a face that was 80% similar to Ce, his personality was completely different from Ce. Ce was the kind of person who was so cold that people didn't dare to approach or talk to him. Other than the woman he loved, he wouldn't care about anyone else. Although Xing Feng had a handsome face that was identical to Ce's, and even inherited that cold appearance, he was completely different from Ce. He was the kind of person who liked to talk about things with humor. When he realized that the person who tripped him was actually his own father, Xing Feng was stunned. After being stunned, he immediately acted coquettishly. However, Xing Feng's coquettish behavior was met with a cold and merciless sentence from Ce. Get lost. Xing Feng naturally understood his father. He twitched the corner of his mouth, turned around, and ran away in dejection. The next morning, the vice president of the martial arts club, Mo Bufan, scratched his head. He was sleeping on his big single bed at home. He turned over. Although the single bed was big, Mo Bufan was sleeping on the edge of the single bed. When he turned over, he directly rolled onto the ground. "Awoo!" Mo Bufan wailed. After howling, his consciousness gradually became clear. "SSS, why do I feel like I had a very scary dream? What kind of dream was it? Why can't I remember? SSS, in my dream, there seems to be Yun Jian." Mo Bufan scratched his head and muttered to himself. As he muttered, he stood up and put on his clothes. Thinking that it was just a dream, he decided not to think about it. After eating breakfast, he took a bus from home to school. As soon as he entered the classroom, he heard the students discussing. The one who led the discussion was Kai Huiling, who had a dispute with Yun Jian in university. "Why did that little bitch appear in my dream? What the hell is going on? I don't want that bitch to appear in my dreams at all. And it seemed like she's slaying God, the #1 on the international secret agent ranking. What kosher mercenaries boss? In my dream, I seem to have dreamt that there were a few people who claimed to be kosher mercenaries standing behind that little bitch. Pfft, I'm puzzled. She actually appeared in my dream in such a manner. Does she think she's a transformer or an armored warrior?" Kai Huiling was chatting with some girls who didn't know what was going on about the dream she had yesterday. She mocked them while laughing. Mo Bufan scratched his head and walked past Kai Huiling. Strange, why did he seem to have achieved the dream she had? But Mo Bufan didn't think too much about it. Chapter 2682. Kai Huiling slid to the ground like she was paralyzed, hugging her head as if she was frightened by something. The girls were bewildered. When they looked up at Yun Jian had already put away the butterfly knife that was transformed from 3 divine weapons and combined with the god-vanquishing blade. She doesn't have anything in her hands. Huiling, are you sure you saw wrongly? The girls exclaimed in shock. It was Kai Huiling who told the school about the dream she had yesterday early in the morning. She even compared Yun Jian to an armored warrior, saying that everything in the dream was hilarious. How could someone like Yun Jian be the top secret agent in the world? What boss of the Kosha mercenaries? Now that she saw Yun Jian, she screamed like she had lost her mind. However, Yun Jian was already far away. After making sure that everyone thought it was a nightmare, Yun Jian returned to Longmen City. Xing Feng and Yuan Xing came from the future and should have left this era through the dimensional gateway. However, both of them refused to leave for a long time. What was more, Xing Feng and Yuan Xing stayed in Longmen City for a few days. Shuaing and Si Luo had yet to give birth to Yuan Xing. In the next few days, Yuan Xing would often ask Shuaing and Si Luo in front of everyone. When are you guys giving birth? He was anxious because he was about to be born in his past life, but Si Luo's stomach had yet to show any signs of pregnancy. His question made Si Luo cover his face and leave. Don't stop me. I'm going to make him cry. Kid. Who told you to bully me every day when you were young? You even stole my beloved little sister, didn't you? You brat. Xing Feng was held back by Mo Sen and Lin Wei as he glared at little Zhou Yiran, who was playing happily on the bed. Little Zhou Yiran was only 4 years old and had no idea that he was the one who bullied Xing Feng in the future. At this moment, Zhou Yiran was holding a group photo of him, the little fellow, and the little girl. In front of Xingfeng, little Zhou Yiran looked at the photo and giggled. As he laughed, he suddenly smacked his lips on the little girl in the photo. Just as the atmosphere was about to explode, Xiao Zhou turned around and kissed the little guy in the photo. The little fellow was none other than Xing Feng himself. Brat, let go of your mouth. Everyone in the villa could hear Xing Feng's roar clearly. On the day that Xing Feng and Yuan Jin left, Yun Jian saw Shenji again in the forest of time and space. Shenji from the future, 2019. Shenji had come all the way from the future. In a dark corner of the forest, Yun Jian and Shenji looked at each other. You're looking for you. Yun Jian curled her lips at the seductive Shenji, who was in her 30s. Yes. Shenji smiled gracefully and nodded at Yun Jian. What's the matter? Yun Jian asked again. The way the two of them interacted was always to speak as little as possible. Yes. Shenji nodded. Finally, Shenji looked up at Yun Jian. 006, promise me something. Don't refuse. Yes. Yun Jian looked up. She had thought that Shenji had come all the way from the future to 2004 to remind her not to forget to save him. After all, Yun Jian had the butterfly knife now. Under certain circumstances, it could bring someone back from the dead. And Yun Jian could save Shenji, who had already passed away. But Shenji only looked up and smiled bitterly. Don't save me. I know you have the ability, but please don't save me. Why? Yun Jian wasn't surprised. 006, it's been so many years. I'm tired. Let me be free. Chapter 2683. Compared to her 20s, Shenji, who was in her 30s, was much more mature and detached from the world. If Shenji was like a wild rose with thorns in the past, the current Shenji standing in front of Yun Jian was like an old man without a care in the world. Hearing Shinji's words, Yunjian fell silent. She was silent because if she hadn't met Ce, if she hadn't been reborn as Yunjian, and if everything hadn't happened, then her choice would have been the same as Shinji's. In this world, no one understood Shinji better than she did. Okay, Yunjian uttered the word flatly from her lips. Hearing Yunjian's words, Shinji smiled. Her smile was enchanting and playful. Then, if we have the chance to meet again in the next life, I will definitely defeat you before you grow up. 006, I, Shinji, haven't forgotten to surpass you. For generations to come, for all eternity. Shinji extended a hand to Yunjian, her piercing eyes glistening with tears as she guffawed, her words flowing smoothly. I'll be waiting. Yunjian clasped Shinji's hand with a smack. She wore a faint smile, just like how she had spent half her life as Shinji's enemy back in an Hun group. It was radiant and beautiful. You have to be happy. Shinji patted Yunjian's shoulder. She glanced at Ce, who was holding the little girl and carrying the little guy. Then she turned and walked towards the forest of time and space. The wind blew the fallen leaves on the ground, lifting them into the air and carrying them into the sky. In less than 2 seconds, the wind stopped without warning. All the leaves in the air fell back to the ground. Shinji was like a dancing leaf. The moment she was lifted by the wind, she was dazzling. Then she returned to her roots, leaving no trace behind. Her fiery red clothes fluttered in the wind. Shinji left in a hurry, like a heroic heroine. She took away Yunjian's lifelong rival. This was the last time Yunjian would see Shinji. Yunjian stood in place and stared in the direction Shinji had left for a long time. She didn't come back to her senses until someone tugged at her clothes. Yunjian didn't come back to her senses. Mama. Mama's bag, the little boy in Ce's hand tugged on Yunjian's clothes. Because he was being carried by Ce, the little boy swayed from side to side as if he was on a swing. She said, hug as bag. The little guy blinked his big eyes. He was so cute that people wanted to pinch his face. Yunjian turned around and saw the little guy who had suddenly started giggling after seeing something fun. Her heart skipped a beat. He reached out and hugged the little fellow, gently rubbing the little fellow's head. She looked up and saw Ce looking at her with a doting expression. Yes, she and Shinji already had a different life. A home full of color and love. She still had her dearest family waiting for her to return home. So she wasn't alone. For the first time, Ce let the little guy snuggle in Yunjian's arms. After Yunjian sent Shinji away, Xingfeng and Yuanxing also left. After all, they weren't from this era. And the most important thing was that, the Lu Shiyun of this world is dead. His death should have changed the future. It should have even returned to the time before the mysterious man appeared. Xingfeng stood outside the forest of time and space as he analyzed. The Lu Shiyun of the modern world was dead. Logically speaking, the Lu Shiyun of the future wouldn't have had a chance to return to the beginning of the divine continent. Then none of this would have happened. This also meant that Yunjian, as the sorcerer goddess, and Ce, as the divine lord, wouldn't have come to Earth. Everything should have been restored to the time when everything had not happened. But don't worry. I've investigated. Because of the mysterious man, time and space have been distorted. Even if the mysterious man doesn't appear in the future, nothing will change now. But there's something bad I need to tell everyone. Xingfeng paused for a moment when he said this. In the end, he continued, the gate of time and space has started to dissipate. I estimate that in 20 minutes, the gate of time and space won't be able to be used again. In other words, if we go back to the future this time, we won't be able to return to 2004. Speaking of this, Xing Feng wasn't worried about not being able to see Yun Jian and Ce again. He turned to Yuan Xing, if you don't do something now, you won't have another chance. Xing Feng knew that Yuan Xing treated Yi Ji differently. At this moment, Yi Ji was trembling behind Yun Jian. She peeked out one eye to look at Yuan Xing, who was standing beside Xing Feng. Hearing Xing Feng's words, Yuan Xing's deep eyes flickered. Just when everyone thought that Yuan Lin would ask Yi Ji to wait for him for more than 10 years, Yuan Lin suddenly walked in front of Yi Ji and grabbed her wrist. He couldn't help but retort as he pulled Yi Ji towards Xing Feng. Follow me. After a pause, he was afraid that Yi Ji wouldn't agree, so he suddenly said in front of everyone, I'll marry you. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2684. Yuan Xing's sudden confession gave everyone a fright. Even Xingfeng didn't expect that Yuan Xing, who had always been by his side, who had always placed importance on important matters, who had even watched as the women he knew fell in front of him, would be beaten to death without a care in the slightest. How could he say such explosive words? Xing Feng originally thought that Yuan Xing only treated Yi Ji differently. He thought that Yuan Xing would tell Yi Ji to wait for him for more than 10 years. He did not expect that the first thing he said would be to marry her. Cough. Xing Feng put his fist in front of his mouth and coughed lightly. He unnaturally pursed his lips into a secret smile. Yi Ji had always been timid. She was a puppet created by the mysterious person to deal with Yun Jian. Even the heavens and earth did not approve of her existence. However, Yi Ji was caught off guard by Yuan Xing's sudden confession in front of everyone. Her wrist was tightly gripped by Yuan Ying. His eyes were fixed on her face, as if he was a python that would swallow her alive if she dared to refuse. Yi Ji shuddered. She turned to Yun Jian for help. Sister Yun Jian, follow your heart. If you're willing, we'll meet again in a decade or so. Yun Jian pressed her lips together and interrupted Yi Ji's words. Follow my heart. Yi Ji placed her other hand that was not held by Yuan Xing over her heart and closed her eyes. After meditating for a few minutes, Yi Ji finally opened her eyes and looked at Yun Jian. Sister Yun Jian, will I be able to see you again after I leave? Yes. Yun Jian nodded. Yi Ji had gone to the future, which meant that she had traveled more than 10 years to the future. Naturally, she would be able to meet the future Yun Jian. However, for Yun Jian and the others, they would have to wait for more than 10 years before they could meet the future Yi Ji. Once she heard that she would be able to see Yun Jian, Yi Ji agreed decisively. All right, the dimensional door is about to disappear. If you don't leave now, it will be too late. Xing Feng used his spiritual power to sense and frowned. Hearing this, Yuan Jing grabbed Yi Ji's hand and walked into the space-time forest. Father, Mother, everyone, we will meet again in the future. Xing Feng revealed a handsome smile that was 80% similar to Si Yi's. He nodded towards everyone and then turned around to catch up with Yuan Xing's footsteps. After sending off Xing Feng, Yuan Xing, and Yi Ji, Yun Jian returned to her normal life. But after that, Yun Jian still had a very important thing to do. 1 month later. The Qin family of Longmen City. Chen Xini had been locked up at home by her father for several days, especially today. To her, it was worse than death. Because this afternoon, Zhang Xiaofeng would be engaged to a rich young lady whom he had known for less than half a year. Zhang Xiaofeng's and Chen Xini's families found out about their relationship. A relationship between cousins was an intolerable act of incest. Chen Xini was impatient as she was locked up at home. Just as Chen Xini was about to smash her head in her anxiety, a sachet was thrown in through the window. Stunned, she quickly opened the sachet and took out its contents. When she saw the familiar words and the key in the sachet, Chen Xinyi was elated. It was her. It was Yun Jian. In a luxurious 5-star hotel in Longmen City. Zhang Xiaofeng was forced by his parents to change into the groom's attire for the engagement. The engagement party was in progress. Zhang Xiaofeng's father, dragged Zhang Xiaofeng to the center of the hotel and clinked glasses with the bride's father, Guohong. In-law, we're a family from now on. Please be more tolerant. Of course. Guohong smiled with squinted eyes and clinked glasses with Zhang Xiaofeng's father. Both of them looked at each other and drank. Zhang Xiaofeng rolled his eyes on the side. If his mother had not held a knife to his neck to force him to change, he would never have come here. Next to Guohong was a girl who was peeking at Zhang Xiaofeng shyly. She was about 18 years old and looked average. The girl's name was Guoyaoting. She was Zhang Xiaofeng's fiancée. It was apparent that if it were not for the urgent need to cut off Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xinyi's relationship, Zhang Xiaofeng's father would not have asked Zhang Xiaofeng to get engaged in such a hurry. Cough, cough. Thank you, dear friends and family, for coming today. Today is the engagement party of my son and the young lady of the Guo family, Guoyaoting. Thank you for coming. Let the engagement ceremony begin. Zhang Xiaofeng's father spoke with squinted eyes. Just as he spoke, a clear and melodious female voice rang out. Hold on. This voice suddenly rang out, causing an uproar in the crowd. What was this? Was someone trying to snatch the bride like in television dramas? Everyone was stunned. Just as everyone was thinking about this, a figure suddenly jumped down from the second floor. This figure jumped down from the second floor. His action was so clean that it shocked everyone around him. Zhang Xiaofeng's eyes lit up when he saw this. Yun Jian, who suddenly stood in front of everyone, turned her head and looked at Zhang Xiaofeng, who was standing in front of the engagement ceremony. She gave Zhang Xiaofeng a contemptuous smile and said something that made everyone's heart skip a beat. Why didn't you invite your master to your engagement party? Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2685. These words sounded like a conversation between an ordinary person and an ordinary person, but the hearts of the people present jumped violently when they heard these words. She's fine after jumping down from the second floor just now. She even claimed to be the man's master. Who's this woman? Some guests who were invited to the scene could not help asking in shock when they saw Yun Jian leaping down from the second floor. Is this person a clown who's here to perform? Someone asked, but their eyes were glued to Yun Jian's face. She shouldn't be. How can a clown be so pretty? Someone retorted immediately. There was a flurry of comments. Guohong had only moved his company and assets to Longmen City a year ago. As Guohong's daughter and the person who was engaged to Zhang Xiaofeng today, Guoyaoting had only come to Longmen City recently. She fell in love with Zhang Xiaofeng the moment she met him. She liked Zhang Xiaofeng's skills and drive that were different from other guys. Zhang Xiaofeng would train every day, including the skills he had learned from Yun Jian for so many years. His abilities should be at least on par with a high-level assassin. It was about half a year ago that Guoyaoting got to know Zhang Xiaofeng. It was a gathering and they were robbed on their way home in the middle of the night. It was a gathering of young men and women, but they were robbed by a group of armed robbers on their way home. Under normal circumstances, they had no other choice but to hand over their money obediently. The robbers that day were lustful when they saw that there were a few girls in the group. If they were ordinary people, they would have been robbed and raped that day. The girls were terrified. The boys' legs were wobbly from fear. It was then that Zhang Xiaofeng stood up. Not only did Zhang Xiaofeng stand up, he even took care of the robbers with his bare hands. They were sent to the police station and praised by the police. It was said that this group of criminals were habitual criminals, but because they were cunning and powerful, and were armed with guns and knives, they were very difficult to catch. In the end, Zhang Xiaofeng managed to capture this group of criminals all by himself. From that day onwards, Gui Yaoding was attracted to Zhang Xiaofeng. Later, the relationship between Zhang Xiaofeng and her cousin, Chen Xini, was exposed. Although it was suppressed, Gui Yaoding still learned about it from various channels. And because Zhang Xiaofeng's parents wanted to completely cut off the relationship between Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xini, they began to arrange blind dates for Zhang Xiaofeng. They wanted Zhang Xiaofeng to get married as soon as possible so that he could completely cut off his relationship with Chen Xini. Gui Yaoding took advantage of the loophole to hold today's engagement party. Gui Yaoding frowned at the sudden appearance of a woman who was obviously here to make trouble and claimed to be Zhang Xiaofeng's master. "Hey, it's Yun Jian. Zhang Xiaofeng, if you dare to let Xini down, as Xini's good friend, my Yun Jian will be the first to not let you off. She's here to look for you." Although Ling Yichen was a playboy, he was also very optimistic about Chen Xini's happiness. In Ling Yichen's heart, he had already treated Chen Xini as his sister. Initially, when Zhang Xiaofeng got engaged to another woman, he was upset and frustrated just sitting by the side. The moment Yun Jian appeared, Ling Yichen stood up and spoke to Zhang Xiaofeng. However, these words sounded different to Gui Yaoding's ears. Gui Yaoding was wearing a gown. Just as Yun Jian was about to reach Zhang Xiaofeng, she stood in front of Yun Jian and acted like the hostess. She spoke to Yun Jian. "You're Chen Xini's friend. I advise you not to cause trouble. If you're doing this for your friend's sake, please leave. Also, Xiaofeng doesn't have a master. You're not welcome here." Chapter 2686. Gui Yaoding said to Yun Jian word by word. Gui Yaoding completely disagreed with Yun Jian's claim that she was Zhang Xiaofeng's master. After all, ever since Gui Yaoding got to know Zhang Xiaofeng had always been training by himself. Those skills must have been learned by Zhang Xiaofeng himself. Moreover, even if he had a master, it definitely wouldn't be Chen Xini's friend. As for Yun Jian's claim that she was Zhang Xiaofeng's master, Gui Yaoding thought that Yun Jian, Chen Xini, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Ling Yichen must have gotten together when they were playing together. After all, in their youth, when students were bored in school, they would often call each other grandpa, grandma, big brother, and little brother. There were also people who called them master. As for Yun Jian, she was definitely one of those people who didn't have any actual skills. It was just a mutual term of address with Zhang Xiaofeng. Gui Yaoding's words to Yun Jian were very shrewish. After all, Gui Yaoding was also from a prestigious family, so she had to have some etiquette. F***ck. Ling Yichen grabbed a handful of his hair, looking like the emperor wasn't worried, but the eunuch was. "Zhang Xiaofeng, if you get engaged with this woman today, I'll marry Xini in the future and leave with her. I'll never see you again." Ling Yichen was holding a glass of red wine. At this moment, he smashed the glass on the ground and shouted at Zhang Xiaofeng without a care for his dignity. "Don't you dare!" Zhang Xiaofeng panicked when he heard that Ling Yichen was going to take Chen Xini away. He shouted back. Seeing Zhang Xiaofeng's reaction, Gui Yaoding was displeased. At this moment, Yun Jian had already walked to a table in front of the engagement banquet. It was filled with all kinds of desserts and wine. She sat down at the table and crossed her legs. She casually poured herself a glass of red wine and looked at Zhang Xiaofeng. Mr. Zhang knew what Yun Jian was capable of. He ran downstairs and walked up to Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian with an anxious and embarrassed expression and hurriedly said, Miss Yun, the matter between my son and Cindy, could you please not interfere? His tone was extremely respectful. No. Yun Jian rejected him directly. With that, she picked up the glass of red wine, put it to her lips, and took a sip. Bang! After Yun Jian tasted the red wine, she threw the glass and the red wine on the ground. The glass shattered and issued a heart-wrenching sound. Who are you? Uncle Zhang asked you to leave so politely. How could you treat Uncle Zhang like this? If you don't leave, I'm going to shout for help. Gui Yaoding grabbed her gown and walked down the stairs. She walked up to Yun Jian and glared at Yun Jian with her round eyes and threatened her loudly. But the moment Zhang Yaoding threatened Yun Jian loudly in front of everyone present, Yun Jian suddenly slid down from the table and stood on the ground. Seeing Yun Jian's move, Zhang Yaoding breathed a sigh of relief. She thought Yun Jian was afraid and wanted to compromise. But just as Zhang Yaoding thought so, Yun Jian hooked her right foot back. She suddenly turned 360 degrees, hooked a red wine bottle behind her, and kicked it back. The red wine bottle hit the wall behind Zhang Xiaofeng in front of Zhang Yaoding and everyone present. The red wine bottle was smashed and the red wine inside poured out. At that speed, that distance, all the red wine poured out onto Zhang Xiaofeng's body. Chapter 2687. I'm the one who gave you your strength. Today, I'm taking it back. The simple words that came out of Yun Jian's mouth shocked everyone present. Initially, everyone thought that Yun Jian was here to cause trouble. However, when Zhang Xiaofeng addressed Yun Jian as his master, Yun Jian kicked away the wine glass, and the words that came out of Yun Jian's mouth, the guests who were here to attend Zhang Xiaofeng and Gui Yaoding's engagement party were all stunned. Putting aside the fact that this teenage girl claimed to be Zhang Xiaofeng's master, the words that came out of her mouth were enough to shock everyone present. What right did she have to break Zhang Xiaofeng's meridians? Uncle Zhang, this girl is obviously here to cause trouble. She said that she wants to break Brother Xiaofeng's meridians. How is Brother Xiaofeng going to live his life in the future? Gui Yaoding was the first to react. She turned around and ran to Mr. Zhang, shouting loudly. Because she was running too fast, Gui Yaoding almost tripped over the gown she was wearing. Gui Yaoding's heart was now on Yun Jian's plan to hurt Zhang Xiaofeng. Father Zhang knew what Yun Jian was capable of. He did not ask someone to chase Yun Jian away like Gui Yaoding expected. Instead, his gaze dimmed as he walked slowly to Yun Jian and begged, "I'm sorry. Miss Yun, please let Xiaofeng go. I can promise you anything else, but this was a mistake from the beginning. Xiaofeng and Cindy can never be together. You." Mr. Zhang walked to Yun Jian and spoke to Yun Jian in an extremely soft voice. When he said that, beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. It was obvious that he was afraid of Yun Jian. Boom! Just as Mr. Zhang said that, the sound of a beer bottle crashing to the ground was heard. It was Zhang Xiaofeng who picked up a beer bottle and smashed it to the ground. The noisy engagement banquet instantly fell silent. At this moment, Zhang Xiaofeng walked down the stairs slowly. As he walked, he tore off his suit jacket and threw it to the ground. "Master, I didn't want to come to the engagement party today." As Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, he suddenly turned around and looked at his mother who was pressuring him. "Mom! You heard it. Today, if you threaten me to marry Miss Guo with death again, I will ask Master to send me to my death. A life without Cindy is no different from hell." Zhang Xiaofeng's words were heard by everyone present. All the guests stood up when they heard his firm words. "Tisk, it's just what the rumors. This is simply a family misfortune, incest." "That's right. I thought that this lad was willing to be engaged to Miss Gua because he realized his mistake and changed. Who would have thought, tsk. The public opinion in the surroundings began to spread rapidly. Zhang Xiaofeng's expression did not change at all when he heard this. If I can't be with Xiaofeng, Chen Sini will go to hell with him. If we can't live together, we'll die together. Just as Zhang Xiaofeng finished speaking, a young lady walked out from the furthest corner of the room. The young girl gritted her teeth as she spoke, her tone filled with determination. It was none other than Chen Sini. Sini, you. Mr. Zhang's expression changed when he saw Chen Sini. Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Sini, will follow you for the rest of my life. I'll never leave you. Since we can't be together, we'll die together. Chen Sini grinned and walked toward Zhang Xiaofeng. What she said sounded normal. However, it took a lot of courage to say something like that. How many people in the world could do that? You. Impossible. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Even if the two of you ganged up to threaten me, I'll never agree to your ridiculous request. Mr. Zhang's heart ached. He clutched his chest and said loudly. Gui Yaoding panicked when Chen Sini appeared. She hated her even more. She looked anxiously at Zhang Xiaofeng and then at Chen Sini. She shouted at Chen Sini. You'll kill Xiaofeng. Do you really love Xiaofeng or not? I'm the one who's engaged to him. You're Xiaofeng's cousin. He's your cousin. It's incest for you to marry him. You'll be punished by the heavens. Gui Yaoding was scared. She was afraid that Zhang Xiaofeng would be snatched away by Chen Sini. Just as he finished his sentence, a beautiful female voice that had not been heard for a long time suddenly rang out. However, what she said stunned Mr. Zhang, all the guests, including Zhang Yaoding, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Chen Sini on the spot. Who told you that the two of them are blood-related cousins? Chapter 2688. Yun Jian's words were like an earth-shattering secret that stunned all the guests, including Gui Yaoding, her father, Guo Hong, and Zhang Jian's parents. Even Chen Sini's biological parents, Chen Zhenchuan and He Xia, who had chased after Chen Sini to the engagement party, were stunned by Yun Jian's sudden words. Miss Yun, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Xiaofeng and Yaoding's engagement party is about to begin. Please don't spout nonsense at the engagement party. Otherwise, even if I'll have to kick you out of the party. Mr. Zhang was stunned when he heard Yun Jian's words. It was as if Yun Jian had discovered a secret that he had kept hidden for many years. He was at a loss as to what to do and started to chase the guests away. Dad! Before Mr. Zhang could finish, the first person to interrupt him was not Yun Jian, but Zhang Xiaofeng. Zhang Xiaofeng was glaring at Mr. Zhang with his bulging eyes. After yelling, he questioned Mr. Zhang in an almost doubtful tone. His voice trembled slightly. If one listened carefully, they would be able to detect a hint of ecstasy in his trembling voice. Tell me. Is it true? Mr. Zhang was stunned when he was questioned by Zhang Xiaofeng. His eyes darted around as he tried to change the topic. Xiaofeng, how can you believe this? You should hurry up and complete the engagement ceremony with Miss Gua, Dad. I'll ask you one more time. Is what my master said true? I want you to say it. Yes. Yes. Zhang Xiaofeng roared the last three words through gritted teeth. Yes, Mr. Zhang lowered his head after being yelled at by Zhang Xiaofeng, but he nodded in response. It's not worth it to kill two people who love each other and lose your son and daughter-in-law at the same time for the pride of a wealthy family. You'll regret it, Yun Jian suddenly said to Mr. Zhang when he lowered his head after being questioned by Zhang Xiaofeng. When he said this, Father Zhang's expression suddenly froze. He was not surprised that Yun Jian would say something like that. He was shocked that Yun Jian's words sounded so familiar. However, Yun Jian turned and walked out of the door as soon as Yun Jian finished her words. She would leave the rest to Zhang Xiaofeng. If he could not handle this well, then he deserved what would happen in the future. Yun Jian was right. She had been to the future world. In 2019, she heard about what would happen to Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xinyi in the future. The two of them were not biological cousins, but they were born in a wealthy family. People in wealthy families valued reputation very much. Therefore, even if Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xinyi were not cousins, they were not allowed to be together. Later, Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xinyi died for love. Mr. Zhang and Chen Xinyi's parents had always thought that the two children were just saying, "We can't live together, but we can die together." They did not expect that the two of them really did it. In the future, Mr. Zhang regretted it very much. He was condemned by his conscience every day and could not sleep. As for what happened later, Yun Jian did not care about it anymore. After seeing so many lives and deaths and dying for love, Yun Jian only wanted to do one thing now. And that was, in the villa. Ce was reading in the study. The two children had just been coaxed to sleep by Qin Yiru. He had just finished reading an entire book about weapons when the door of the study was opened. When he saw Yun Jian wearing a heavy coat that looked like a dumpling, Ce instinctively thought that he would not be able to eat meat tonight. Just now. But just as Ce was about to ask, his expression suddenly changed and his eyes suddenly became sharp. When Yun Jian took off the long and thick coat that was as cumbersome as a dumpling in front of him, Yun Jian's eyes widened in shock. Inside, she was only wearing a pair of underwear that could barely cover her seductive parts. "I want you." Calm. Wonderful Book House, you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.